right.
Yeah, this is good lighting, man.
Right here is good lighting.
This is really good. Now, if
I can feel the lighting.
and I can also turn my light on, but I'd rather not.
Right. Let's ask this guy. You got a second for us?
It's him.
That's good. I'm here for your change.
Oh,
I thought you were going to say something compelling, like with the "We Are Free" stuff.
We are free.
For now, maybe.
what's up, David Crowley? Happy Dependence Day. With the gray state looming.
That's strangely ironic.
Strangely
I was
ironic.
about to say, like, I gotta go interview those guys. I have my camera set up.
Right. Who are you with then, or?
I'm just here. I'm actually capturing B-roll so I can maybe sell it as stock footage online.
Oh, gotcha.
Nothing major, but I met that Paul Tushy guy.
Eric,
So
David Crowley from Hothead Productions, Gray State.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm a friend of Sean Wright's.
Of course, everyone's friends with Sean. I saw Tim once, and I was like, no way.
Right. Basically, I don't know. People keep telling us that, hey, you Wisconsin fuckers got it down pat. You guys got your shit together. I'm like, thanks, because I felt like I was doing a shitty job. I've always felt like I could do more. So,
You guys doing interviews or something?
yeah, why not?
What for?
For whatever.
We are changed.
Yeah.
That's so weird. I saw the camera. I'm like, oh, who are these guys?
Right, right.
There goes Tim.
Yeah.
Who you here with your family?
Yeah.
Let's go say hi to him. I want to say hi to your daughter.
They're nervous. They would be nervous. You're like, you're not broadcasting. What are you doing?
No, it's just I'm on, just rolling. We're just trying to get some people and
Yeah,
what they're
bring the
thinking
high-tech
about our
here with us.
independence when we actually had one of the worst weeks of our American history this week.
Right. That's what I was saying as you guys walked by. Like, who are these guys? Yeah, we're free and independent, but Obamacare just passed.
Yeah, what do you think about that, Mr. Crowley?
What do I think about Obamacare? Well, I'd have to read the, 3,000-page document first to make an educated decision, but I guess Congress doesn't, need to do that.
No, we don't need to read our bills. We just need to pass them. See, Nancy Pelosi says that, right?
You got- yeah,
find out what
it's
they-
not a tax. It's just a mandatory fee if you don't comply. Well, as long as it's not a tax.
But it's
I guess
good
that's-
because, all those people that are poor, get health care now.
Yeah, then I can pay for it, and then, well,
So they can have more kids and, have more.
everyone here
profit.
will pay for it as long as they're not an illegal immigrant, then they won't have to. So, everyone got free reign.
Kind of this week made the gray state a little bit closer, don't you think? The ramifications of what you're actually producing right now is manifesting in our today's politics, and you're foretelling it. So-
We've always known that. We've always known that the gray state is imminent. But the thing is, it's like the worst thing. If you have an argument with the idiots and you win, they'll never know that you won. Because they're idiots. They don't understand the concept of the argument or the basis of the conversation. So I had this thought, and I actually wrote it down in my journal when I was serving in Iraq, arguing with my LT, who I was, more intelligent than, I suppose. Like, this guy's an idiot, and I just won in an argument, and he'll never know it. So there's no like substantial victory there, So the fact that the gray state is coming, and it's already here to a large extent, is meaningless because most people will never acknowledge it.
Just move along. There's nothing to see here, right? Go back to what you're doing.
No. These people live and die in this world, in this cage, and they'll never understand that it's a cage.
What's going on in my way?
So it's a great shame in many ways, but I don't know. I think most of the population of this country is essentially ballast. Victory or defeat will require a population reduction of 80%. Because even if, okay, let's say you're here for liberty, right?
I'm always here for liberty.
Yeah, okay, liberty succeeds. Ron Paul, for whatever reason, goes through hell and back and becomes president of the United States and does everything he says he's going to do. 80% of the population, at least. They say the revolutions are won by the 3%. That means 97% of the other people don't really give a shit one way or the other. Okay, now you're taking away their entitlements. You're making them stand up for themselves and work for what they get. That's their revolution, buddy. Okay, so our victory will eat us, basically.
Yes, sir.
The liberty cause is fruitless with this ballast. Okay, we're a submarine underwater. We have to release the ballast to go deep. Okay, well, we got to release that ballast. It's sad to say. It's not like I'm advocating.
Time to surface.
Yeah, victory or defeat. If they win, we lose. if we win, I mean, we still eventually lose because we have all these people. And if we're going to reinstate a real democracy or a republic, these people are going to drag us right back down.
Unfortunately, these people don't know what a real republic is.
Yeah.
Governed by laws that the people elect their officials to put those laws in place. Yeah, we think that we can overrule that with democracy when 50 plus 1 says that they want what they want. So it's the politicians that sell out that makes your movie going to be successful.
I don't think my movie will be successful. What do you think?
I think that it's
Yeah,
an
with the elitist attitude.
Well, I think it's just realistic. I don't know. Well, time will tell. Time will tell. But
The talent
anyway,
level, the
reanimated
passion.
corpse of this society will toddle along for however long it's intended to.
I'm convinced that the reason that is because of social engineering and the people that are programmed for program responses. And so they don't necessarily think for themselves. Most of these people are incapable of critical thinking. And so that's the upward battle that we're fighting. Yeah, it seems like a winnable battle when you're only fighting a small elected group of people, or maybe the 3,000 people that run the, say, Council on Foreign Relations, Bilderberg Group, or whatever else. But when you have an entire population who grew up staring at this oblong box in the corner of the room, telling them what they should think, what they should feel, how they should dress, how they should act, what products to buy, we're fighting a majorly uphill battle. And the key to the whole thing is to wake up minds.
Well, that's the basis of operant conditioning, isn't it?
Yeah.
Skinner's box. We're all in Skinner's box. The nature of Hegelian dialectics is you can't see the box until you step outside the box.
Right. But
I don't know. So the
you gotta
4th of
keep
July is.
I believe you got to keep hope. The only way that we, because even if they did an 80% production, they're still going to repopulate, and then you're going to have the same exact problem over and over.
History repeats itself. I mean, it's a shame.
Well, we created this country based upon the ideals and feelings and the model that the founding fathers created. Why can't that happen again? If history repeats itself, then we have the opportunity to do the exact same thing over again.
Well, that's the nature of the gray state. I mean, what we have in the past is, okay, the Roman Empire went through the same cycle.
Right.
But what was the last free society that we saw? Was it Rome?
No.
No, not really. And they were, I mean, that eventually imploded like it was supposed to, right? But Rome didn't have nuclear weapons or biological weapons or eugenics or nanotechnology or control of the entire food supply. I mean, even back in the 30s when the economy collapsed, it sucked. But 90% of the people still provided their own food supply. We don't see that today. Going back to what I said about ballast, these people are entirely reliant.
Yes.
Entirely reliant. So, like
Which
you
is
said, Tim,
ironic
Happy
because-
Dependence Day.
Right, which is ironic because we are celebrating Independence Day. But if the grocery stores were to close today,
Oh my God!
half of these people would not know how to eat. They would not know how to grow their own gardens, how to
Oh, and
be
it's too late.
self-sufficient.
How long does it take for a garden to come
Right.
to fruition?
Exactly.
I mean, it is entirely hopeless. That's what I mean. Like victory or defeat, 80%. Because if anything happens to the very delicate web intricacies of our current economic system, the way we get our food, even anything happens, in 3 days you will steal for what you need to eat. In a week you'll kill for it. And consider that 99% of these people are completely untrained and undisciplined. They will do barbarous, vicious, terrible things to each other.
While the elite who created this situation sit back and just kind of watch it all play out.
Oh, absolutely. That's what it's designed to do. The upcoming civil war between the National Guard, the police, and the armed alert citizen is entirely planned. In the end, it doesn't affect the elite who orchestrated the whole thing.
Because they always create battles and sit back and kind of laugh at us for fighting amongst each other.
And
Because
why would
we're
they do it?
incapable
Because it hurts America. Don't they care? Well, they're not American.
No.
They don't care. This is just a vehicle of
Yeah.
economic success that they've used to perpetuate their plans.
Well, not only that, but you've got large corporations whose yearly gross profits exceed the majority of the GDPs of the countries in the world. So they literally consider themselves almost like, who are these countries? Like, why are you in our way? So they don't look at boundaries the way that the rest of humanity looks at them. They think outside of the terms of nation states, they look at themselves as the people who create societies, build empires, and destroy them for their own profit and gain, for power and control.
Well, sure. I mean, nation states you see being dissolved everywhere. We're not even in America anymore. We're in the North American Union,
America Incorporated.
Enjoy the
Starbucks
fireworks.
Universe.
Right.
What's the Fight Club quote? I forget. But yeah, I mean, that's why they're eroding sovereignty, and it's not a big deal to these people as they sit here about to watch the fireworks celebrating their independence. Until it becomes a big deal, it's going to be entirely too late to do that small-scale battle you're talking about of waking people up. Until it becomes real, until their Starbucks is taken away, they're not going to give a shit. But once that Starbucks is taken away, that means everything else is gone as well.
So do you think that the job that we're doing, trying to awaken minds, is so futile that we shouldn't bother? Or is it still a fight that we should wage anyway, even with the hope of maybe never winning?
Well, you're asking me that, and I'm trying to make a film about this, so what does that tell you? I think everyone needs to operate in their own capacity. And maybe waking people up in small numbers like this is all we can do. So maybe if you wake up that guy sitting over there, for example, maybe he'll become alert to the system, and maybe he'll pack away some food. And his family will make it over that curve, that hump, where everyone else is going to die off. But he'll be okay, because he at least, this is, of course, worst case scenario. But in best case scenario, I mean, at least he knows. Best case scenario, we operate under our own civil liberties, put our people in office, enact a grassroots reform that we'd like to see for liberty. Worst case scenario, we just survive longer than everyone else.
I was trained well by the military. I was in the Boy Scouts growing up. I'm going to survive no matter what happens, and I'm going to see to it my family survives.
And then your generation, the people you survive with, your community that you start, that will be the next American Revolution that you're talking about, where the cycle will repeat itself, and we'll see another free society emerge in the wasteland of the former United States.
So what you're saying is no matter what, the elite are going to get their way of getting the depopulation.
Okay. Look at these people. Do you think when the time comes there'll be a mass awakening and they'll stand up and say, yes, for liberty, I'm going to throw away all my entitlements. I'm going to start.
No.
Yeah, okay. They will support the system to the death. I guarantee this.
There was an interesting show on I believe it was the National Geographic, where in I believe it was Jellystone Park, they had the garbage there had been just left out, and the bears over generations had come and just kind of scavenged off the garbage. And then they got sick of the bears coming around and scavenging the garbage. So then what they did was they locked the garbage up, thinking we're going to get rid of these pesky bears. But what they didn't realize was that over generation, these bears had lost their natural instinct to be able to hunt and survive that way, to be independent of this garbage pile. And once they removed that garbage pile from them, then the bears started going out and, going into campsites, digging through campers' stuff, and at times even attacking campers. So it's the same kind of mentality, and I can see that even though we should be, for all those people who believe in evolution, that we're somehow a much greater species and we're so much better than the animals around us. I'll tell you something, when push comes to shove, these people here will act just as much like animals for their own survival, because they get brought down to that core survival mentality, and then that's what we're going to be faced with. So imagine us three trying to survive, and all of these people see that we have food, that we have shelter, that we have electricity, that we've figured out how to survive. We're going to have one heck of a battle in our hands, fighting the very people that we've been trying to save this whole time.
You're talking about the growth curve supplied by that trash heap. We're living in a trash heap, and we're all just the gulls, circling and screaming around the top of it, waiting to get our fix. You take away that trash heap, well, we're going to revert back to normal. What is it? The scientific term eludes me, but the natural zero, where we're supposed to be, our natural alignment with our resources. So I think that's going to be 10 or 20% of our current population. That's why I say 80% reduction by victory or defeat. So those bears starved off until they reached their natural balance, didn't they? Yeah, and it's a terrible shame. You look around, They're all waving their flags today. We'll see
Yeah.
what happens tomorrow.
It truly is the Hegelian dialectic, though. Problem, reaction, solution, where the problem was created, or supposedly created, overpopulation, lack of independent thinking, lack of independent sustainability, where we become dependent on the system, and all they got to do then is pull the rug out from underneath us.
Yep.
They want to be famous.
We do.
Right. I saw some of you guys' work. It's really good. Really appreciate good talent when I see it. Right on.
Well, you guys have to share it. I got the paper.
The gunshots. Of the 12 neighbors that were interviewed about the Crowley family, only 2 neighbors reported hearing gunshots: Colin Prochnow and Alan Olson. Colin lived one house left of the Crowleys. Alan Olson lived behind the Crowley family on Lowell Drive. According to police reports, Colin Prochnow reportedly heard gunshots between December 2nd and December 19th, 2014. Mr. Prochnow was able to narrow down the date to December 9th or December 10th, sometime between 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. most likely. Mr. Prochnow also believed the gunshots came from the direction of the Crowley residence. Colin did not contact law enforcement, Officer Tara Becker reported, but stated that he checked out his front door and didn't see anything, and checked out the back of his residence and thought it was fireworks. The second neighbor who heard gunshots was Alan Olson, who lived on the street behind David Crowley. Detective Brian Bone first spoke with Alan's wife, Gina Olson, who mentioned her husband heard, quote, 3 rapid-fire shots from somewhere outside their residence. A day later, Detective Bone followed up with Alan Olson to learn more about the gunshots heard before December 31st, 2014. Mr. Olson stated he was sitting in his living room one evening with his daughter when he heard 3 rapid-fire gunshots somewhere outside of his house. Olson could not remember exactly where the sounds came from, but he was certain he heard gunshots. Olson told Detective Bone that he and his family were home between 1 p.m. on Christmas Eve and 1 p.m. on Christmas Day. However, Mr. Olson was unsure if he heard the gunshots on either of those days. Detective Bone's report ended by stating Alan explained that he had not called the police because he did not have any specific information about when he heard the shots. How many gunshots should have been heard? 6, if the fragment, item 37, belonged to one of the 4 spent rounds found on January 17, 2015. Yet there was a maximum of 3 possible shots heard sometime between Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. 3 rapid-fire shots, not 6. 3 shots could have accounted for what's in Kamel and Ranya's autopsies. The reports state Kamel was shot twice and Rania was shot once. That doesn't line up with the DNA results, which show there were 3 bullets tied to Kamel, and another bullet was tied to Rania and an unknown DNA profile. If the 3 bullets tied to the 3 rapid-fire shots were truly tied to the deaths of Kamel and Rania, that still leaves 3 bullets fired after their deaths. Only one of those bullets would account for David's death. Another bullet was fired into the floor of the living room, landing in the south basement wall. But that still leaves a bullet found close to Kamel, which only has her DNA blood on it. How could this bullet only have Kamel's blood, considering where the bodies were found? Let's take a look at the simple truth here. Kamel was shot at least twice, ruling out a suicide on her part. If Kamel died last, which is something we will consider in a future episode. There is no way she could have killed herself. The autopsies state Kamel was shot twice, but DNA results have her blood and only her blood on 3 bullets. Rania was found on top of Kamel's back leg. If Rania was shot where they say she was, it's possible some of that blood should have been on one of those 3 bullets tied to Kamel. Yet the bullet tied to Rania completely rules out Kamel and David as contributors, but does include an unknown DNA source. So the bullet tied to Rania did not just have Rania's DNA on it. Another simple truth is that neighbors did not hear 6 fired shots in the area. Of the 12 neighbors who were interviewed by the police, only 2 of them reported hearing any type of shots or fireworks between December 2nd and December 31st, 2014. What Colin Prochnow heard on December 9th or December 10th is not relevant to the deaths of David, Kamel, and Rania Crowley, for the simple fact that David, Kamel, and Rania Crowley were still alive on December 9th and December 10th. That still leaves Alan Olson. He was certain he heard 3 rapid-fire gunshots between December 24th and New Year's Eve. Rapid fire, 3 shots. That leaves 3 gunshots he did not hear. But if those 3 rapid-fire shots came from the same gun, what targets did they hit? And does that line up with DNA results? Perhaps. But only if someone's body was moved at some point, then placed later where the first responders found them. In the end, no one heard 6 shots. They should have. But that doesn't mean that there were not shots fired in the house between late December of 2014 and mid-January of 2015. The order of deaths and the body placement will be covered soon.
Hi, everyone. It's Catherine Michelle here, and I am being joined today, or I should say the 3 of us, Greg and Sophia. We are all meeting together today to discuss a topic that has brought some questions to a lot of people, mainly because if you don't read through all of the reports, it can be a little vague and a little misleading. And what we're going to be talking about today is item number 57, and that was the bullet that was found. Eventually, it was located in the attic, but was reported a month after the crimes and after the crime scene had been closed down. And with item 57 comes the question of blood or no blood.
Yes, he has a merchandise video on his grave station. You want it?
This is the ideal family, seemingly.
A simple truth. It really is this.
To our guest here, joining us via video Skype, if you're watching on prisonplanet.tv, David Crowley and Danny August Mason, and the website is graystatemovie.com. And I was at Bilderberg, protesting 8, 9, 10 hours a day, bullhorning, shaking hands and then going back and doing, radio and TV until the wee hours of the morning. So I was pretty exhausted. But the last day before I left, they wanted an interview. I didn't even know what it was for. I was like, Gray State documentary? Okay, sure. They asked some good questions, and I kind of stumbled off. And then I saw the trailer a month ago or so, and I've been meaning to get them on ever since. And we'll be playing some of the trailer without audio because it doesn't translate well on radio. But for people watching on the internet, we'll be playing some of the video in the background while they speak. But I mean, it looks like a trailer that would be produced by HBO or something. In fact, it looks like a trailer that would be produced for a $20 million budget movie. Wouldn't say B, but wouldn't say wouldn't say Jerry Bruckheimer. But it looks like HBO quality. I mean, it's right up there. And imagine what they could do with funding. And I'm not associated with the movie. I'm not, I don't have stock in it or anything. I just like to see things produced and made. I helped, start Luke Rudowski off and We Are Change, so many other groups. That's how you defeat people is by creating all these other organizations. That's how you defeat the globalists. That's how you defeat tyrants, is creating so many movements and groups or helping get them rolling to where you can't be stopped. You reach critical mass. And I really hope these guys get this film made. Briefly, people want to know about you individually from GrayStateMovie.com. So in a minute each, David Crowley first, then Danny Mason. Tell us about yourselves and the impressive film you're working on, and you're also trying to crowdsource fund now. Charlie Manson's records are finally going to get produced with hundreds of thousands of dollars thanks to crowdsourcing. So if that scumbag can get his stuff produced off the crowdsourcing, I hope you can. So let's give it a shot here today. Tell us about yourselves and then about the film.
Hey, Alex, good to talk to you again. I'm David Crowley. I'm the writer and director of Gray State. And I'm a veteran, I'm a husband, I'm a father. And the interesting thing about this material, once you delve into it, is that everyone has to act within their own capacity to express this information. So Gray State has been my effort to kind of draw the human narrative out of all this terrifying information that we see all around us. And I think that's been my responsibility. And he came to us and he's like, hey guys, check out FEMA camps, check out these things. And we're like, okay. And then it's like, oh, wow, this is important. And we should probably pay attention. So of course we go about making a film because that's what we do. But my partner Mitch and I run a production company called Hothead Productions, and we do photography, videography, and filmmaking, of course. And so basically Gray State, while you say it looks good, that is essentially cheated, just out of pocket from Mitch and I's production company. And it's doing what we do best, making films in an independent fashion. So we went through the entire production process for every scene for a trailer. I mean, we had to do location permits and casting and arranging all these resources. But yeah, it was funded basically on a budget of about $6,000.
I would like to help you guys, get this done, but also because I've actually been around Hollywood and what goes on there. You've got to be careful because 99% of the time, some big fish will come along claiming they're going to help you, and all they'll do is pay you a little money, take control of it, and then never produce it. So if I was you, you're going the right way, crowdsourcing. I would not take any big money or big investors. They will kill your film. David Crowley, Danny Mason, GrayStateMovie.com. Let's get more into the plot of the film and how much funding you need to get it done properly to then put it in theaters. You've seen what Obama 2016 has done. I mean, it's reached tens of millions of people, and it's made, I don't know, $20 million, whatever it is now. And the cinematography is great and everything, but the budget of that looks like maybe $1 million. The point is that this is where you're actually able to reach people, and a fictional account of near future paralleling reality, I think, is a great way to go. But tell people where they can go to learn more about it and where they can go to crowdsource it. Explain how you're trying to fund this.
All right, all details about the film are available at GrayStateMovie.com, but our crowdfunding is at Indiegogo.com/GrayStateMovie.
And you've got links at GrayStateMovie.com to that.
Yep.
And you've raised $13,000. You're trying to raise $50,000.
Well, one important thing that we should say is that $50,000 is simply just to get us off the ground. This movie cannot be made via crowdsourcing. I mean, if we want to do it right, if we want to lend it the scale that it needs, I mean, Mitch and I can cheat it this way. And we spent $6,000 on the trailer. You say it looks like $1 million. If we get $1 million, it'll look like $6 million, and so on. But crowdfunding is not how we're going to fund it, but it's how we're going to get it seen by the right people.
Well, they've had tens of millions raised with crowdfunding. I saw an idea just a few weeks ago to have these little watches, just little cheap watches with with different faces. They wanted to raise a couple $100,000. They raised like 12 million and had to cut off the money coming into them. So I wouldn't sell yourself short going on this.
You're right, Alex.
Yeah, hopefully
that would require a massive grassroots campaign similar to what Ron Paul has done.
Yeah.
We need to get out there, and we've had the campaign going for 30 days, and so far we've only gotten 13,000 out of 50,000. And that's
Ron Paul would have kept going if Jesse Benton hadn't started calling his main supporters extremist,
right,
as we've seen from Peter Schiff's email telling them not to, I mean, now those of us that know what's going on, we're the bad guys. Ron Paul's still a great guy, but the Republican establishment is literally taking everything over. But I don't want to get off. I don't want to get off into that. Break down the plot of the film for people or an overview so they know what we're trying to get out to people.
Well, an important distinction to make is that the trailer is sort of a Hollywood-style trailer showing a lot of action and stuff, and that's not really what the film is about. The film takes place in the context of a future thing where we're going to say police and military are bad.
And also, too, we show a couple characters in that who are actually as civilians or regular people and about their decisions if they're going to go along with a takeover or if they're going to go against it and actually
that's actually the scarier part is what the civilians are going to do.
Exactly.
And by the way, the takeover is ongoing. If we resist too much politically, they'll stage terror attacks to launch the hot war against us. We'll be right back. We'll talk about the guillotines in the film. David Crowley, writer, producer, editor, VFX artist, composer, very talented folks, and Danny Mason, who is an actor and director, you name it, in theater and film, University of Kansas. Won't go over their whole bio, but GrayStateMovie.com. And I like to have people on like this sometimes who have a passion and a dream, because in just the process of trying to make their film, they're putting out mini documentaries, they're putting out trailers, they're already reaching hundreds of thousands and then hopefully millions of people. And we need to help people who are trying to get the word out. We need to help folks that are trying to fight tyranny, because so many people, they either want some big, giant, elaborate master plan that it's going to perfectly, in a chain reaction, like one of those toys where you put the marble in one end and it goes through all the different ladders and loops and elevators and comes out perfectly, or they don't want to do it. And so much of it is just saying, I'm standing up for the truth. We know what classical tyranny and oppression is. It's happening here. And the people that have hijacked our country, they're admitting that. I mean, they're admitting that we're an occupied nation by foreign banks. They're admitting they're getting rid of the Bill of Rights and Constitution. They're putting RFID and satellite trackers on children nationwide. They know fluoride gives you brain cancer and bone cancer and dumbs you down. I mean, Harvard admits it. These are really evil people. And they don't move against us all because they don't really have the power. They have to convince us to go along with them. So GrayStateMovie.com, and we are going to tweet out right now. It's going up at Infowars.com, the trailer itself, and we will tweet that out to you if you're following us at Real Alex Jones. Aaron Dykes is coming in with some breaking news after our guests leave us, and I've got some other breaking news. We got about 6-7 minutes left with them, and I want to get them back on in the near future, maybe premiere some of their mini documentaries on the nightly news to break down what they're doing. But gentlemen, give us a sneak peek of kind of the script. You're asking for funding and support here. People are going to want to know. We get the general idea, but you say not a horror movie. Well, tyranny is horror. So I get it's a love story. You love your wife, you love your family, so you better be ready to fight the evil. But, I mean, you got people in white hoods with guillotines as kind of Illuminati executioners and lining people up and shooting them. That's actually the plan in the re-education centers. The Army admits now they do have re-education camps. Since we talked at Bilderberg, that's now been confirmed that they have the re-education camps. So just chilling things happening here. Tell us a little bit about the plot and the man at the guillotine.
Well, that scene does not necessarily happen in the actual feed. The description being that it's requiring more and more work to support that illusion. And what will happen when it's finally contested? It's no longer just a luxury to believe in that false world where you just go to your job and everything.
So it's almost like the Matrix. People are so propagandized, they don't know that on the other side of town, they got guillotines chopping people's heads off.
And they won't believe it,
Yeah.
Alex. The thing, we know that they will not believe it. And that's kind of the striated response we've gotten on the trailer. It's either A, this is awesome and it's almost true, or B, this is a bad, this is not real, and that's why I'm not going to watch the film. And what it does is it shows us how close to reality we're actually getting, because it's that emotional knee-jerk response.
Well, yeah, people
instead
think
of
that if they deny it, it suddenly makes it not real.
Exactly.
Yeah, because their reality is a form of religion for them. And the more you encroach on that, it's more you question their morals and ethics and even spiritualism. And it becomes a very, sensitive ground. And the reason why we put the guillotine in it was more of the symbolism behind it, going back to a very dark, medieval time, almost like cultish. So,
and we know that that's something that they would do because it's symbolic, it's brutal, and it's efficient. And actually something that happens in the actual Gray State thing is that they're going to start sending you something in the mail saying you have to go operate the guillotine when they round up suspected dissenters and put them in line.
Well, I was about to stop you. You guys have
Yeah.
done amazing research. Tell us briefly about your awakenings and what brought you to this point, because I sent out my reporters 2 days ago to do Man on the Street, and they were down at a Starbucks downtown, and they're dressed nice. Linda West and John Bound and others were out there, and all of a sudden they're out in front of Starbucks, and a guy comes out in a three-piece suit, and they say, "Hi, sir, we'd like to interview you, get your take on just the state of things in America, your view on things." And that's all they said to him. And he goes, "Yeah, I got somebody for you." And he goes in, comes up with a camera, starts taking photos of him, and the police pull up and then just, checked him out. But, I mean, a woman in a business suit now with a Infowars.com microphone saying, "Hi, we're getting your take on the state of things, just the state of America." That guy guaranteed was InfraGard, and they've literally recruited almost everyone in an executive position, even what you'd say is low-level, dentists, doctors, or tried to recruit them. Almost every doctor my dad knows, medical or dental, has had a Homeland Security visit. I mean, in America. And they're like, "Well, what do you want me to watch for?" "We want you just to watch what people are saying about the government, what they're doing. We want you to spy on your patients." My dad's like, "No way." He thought it was just him. It was others. I mean, this is already there. And again, this is the government. It's like, "Well, we're doing it for your safety." They're the ones that got the underwear bomber on the plane. They're the ones that ran Anwar al-Awlaki. They're the ones putting the fluoride in their water. It's like, wow, they really are consciously engaged in a takeover. And they've got all these weird little minders that feel like secret agents. Because I've seen their training videos, their training manuals I've sent by people on the inside. It's come out about InfraGard. And they even give the higher level InfraGards firearms and tell them they're secretly deputized federally, that they'll be given. This even came out in mainstream news. Several big articles a few years ago. I even had the writer on about it, where the headline, guys, if you look it up, was something like InfraGard, being given license to kill. And in the documents they got, it was in major news, like 5 years ago. They were being prepared that during an emergency, they would have to kill some of their employees. Like the FBI may order you to start killing people. So, and like the average executive is like on a power trip with a pistol in their drawer and an FBI card, literally shaking with pleasure in this delusion of television that they're like a secret agent now and it's really cool. No, they're going to be throwing you against the public when the globalists are involved in a takeover. I don't think people understand what you just said is what they're already training them for. Go ahead. So I mean, I want you to comment on that briefly, but then also tell me your view of that.
Well, I think the essence is pretty much what they're doing, not go too much on a soapbox, is prepping society to accept oppression as a form of security, and with that, and giving up your liberties and rights on it. And most importantly is giving up this idea of free will and choice and what you actually do with that choice.
And for whatever reason, if you're American, this simply does not apply to you.
Yeah.
As if we're somehow immune to the rhythms of history. And Alex, I want to thank you because we owe a lot of the this information coming out because of you and your organization.
Yes.
A lot of people like to say that, well, you guys are just Alex Jones acolytes, and that makes you bad, and that makes me not want to listen to you. Well, we have nothing to gain from you being right about this, Alex. If you're right, we're not going to make the film.
Yeah, we're screwed.
Yeah, but if you're wrong, I mean, why? If we're wrong, we can go on and make films and have a successful
Yeah, but listen,
career.
the cowards always attack those that are telling it like it is. I mean, it's official they're training the military for gun confiscation. It's official that they have the FEMA camps now. And you know, do we get told, hey, great job, you were right? Here's the Army document, re-education camps. When good people in the Army leak it, and the Army admits it's real. No, we're even more wrong when we're right. You understand that?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. That's been the response on YouTube. 97% positive, 3%. You guys are crazy. Get out the tinfoil hats. I'm not going to watch your film.
But you notice they'll still
Story.
3% dominate the comments because they're paid. And a lot of those are admitted sock puppets. Those aren't even people.
That could very well be true. But the scary thing about Gray State is that you're going to have those people who speak out, but they represent a silent majority. The 97% who don't win revolutions, those are the scary ones, because the second you challenge their entitlements, like in a scenario the Gray State suggests, they're going to revolt. So if revolutions are won by the 3%, they're going to be turned on by the 97%, and that is the real Gray State. There is the people who are so mind controlled, they don't listen to facts on a reasonable basis, and they deny whatever you say just because.
And it's crazy because I've been researching this material since even when I was really, really young. And I think just from that, always having the questions about situations with government and also with foreign affairs and foreign policies at the same time, to never accept the truth as it is, but always to go on your own in terms of research, and whatever the truth is going to lie in the individual. And it's just our jobs as artists and our responsibility to present the truth. And whatever that truth is dependent on the interpretation of the individual.
And that's not something you've seen from art lately. Like the 60s, what they did is art represented reality, and they represented the zeitgeist of that time. We haven't seen that.
It was a fantastic movement, and it just got shunned. And that's what we're
You haven't seen that recently. At Gray State, I'm not saying it's unique. I'm not saying it's perfect, going back to what you said before. But it's one exercise in retaking our mainstream
resistance is victory. I mean, if we just resist, it's like a muscle building. We're going to get stronger and better as we go. And so stop waiting. I mean, that's why I love what you're doing. You're just going at it, and you're also going at something big, but have already created amazing, thought-provoking information in the process. So it is, you know, the old saying of it's not the destination, it's the journey. That's the trip. And I hope people right now go to your website and donate to it $5, $10, $20, because if you won't exercise your First Amendment today, you'll never exercise the second. And the first is more powerful if you use it up front than the second. It's a cop-out to just get a bunch of guns and sit around on them all day and say, I'm going to kill somebody if they come and try to put me in jail. Why don't you instead try to wake up the minions of the system before you have to think about the point of, oh, my God, they're going to take me to a FEMA camp. Okay, it's time to get the guns out, because you're not going to let them take you to a re-education camp. And we're getting to that point. And then
about Alex is the second the guns come out, 80% casualties, 80% fatalities. We do not want it to come to that point by any means. And
by the way, you talked about Iraq. Well, I mean, in a moment, just briefly talking about Iraq and Afghanistan, where you were. I mean, they admit all that's a laboratory for here. I've read MIT Magazine saying what we did in Fallujah with the cameras, the trackers, the face scanners, we're going to do that here. And now police are out on the highway at checkpoints with face scanners. I mean, it's here. This is here. Go ahead.
Oh, also,
we know that's true.
Yeah, with drones and with everything.
I mean, they're trying to impose martial law, the same model that they do overseas. And we know that, Alex. We know that. What's next? That's why we're making a film to show the people who otherwise would not be recipients of this message.
I mean, we were just on a brief note. We were shooting this way before any Occupy Wall Street came out. Anything from like the NDAA ever came out. And when these events started taking place and people started looking at the images and finally saw the trailer.
As a documentary.
Now, I interrupted you a moment ago, so we're almost out of time. What was the point you were trying to make?
Oh, I was just going to say that going back to the nature of resistance is victory. That is a statement that the Gray State does a very good job of describing. Even though you may be killed resisting, the act of resistance on a metaphysical level has value. So we can reassign. I mean, it's not about Ron Paul. We know that now. Yeah. It's not about retaking the country and, persisting in this paradigm. It's about finding out who you are as a person, as a human being, and resisting coercion.
In this realm and also in the other realms too. And I'll just only hint at that.
It's a very layered script.
It is.
It's metaphysical.
Well, no, the fight is at its core spiritual, and you'd have to be in deep denial and delusion spiritually now to not know that the shadows are getting long here. Gentlemen, amazing. Again, the website, both the websites for people to go find out what's going on. We're also just posted the full trailer at Infowars.com for people to pass around, but give people the websites one more time.
GrayStateMovie.com and Facebook.com/GrayStateMovie, Indiegogo.com/GrayStateMovie. This is a film you're going to want to see because it's everything that Alex says put on screen.
Yes.
It's going to be so brutal because we don't pull any punches. This is not our game to pander to the lowest common denominator. We're going to make it as brutal as we possibly can because that is the reality we're facing.
And it's up to the people to help us out.
Right. Because
So
no studio is going to touch this.
No, not
so
at
we
all.
need you guys to support.
And we
Well,
want to
David-
keep it independent and grassroots.
Sure.
So,
David Crowley, Danny Mason, we'll talk to you both again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us on, Alex.
thanks, Alex.
Very exciting. A lot of neat stuff over on their website as well. Aaron, we're going to go to break and come back.
We are working vigilantly on it at the same time. Working on securing funding, finalizing the script for it. Also on top of that, a documentary. So that should be coming out first and be able to do the big push. So,
Well, yeah, if you're not familiar with Gray State, it's basically a film about a future collapse of society under martial law, the loss of liberty and violation of the Constitution. So it's right there hand in glove with what's going on right now, real world, with the legislation being passed and not being passed. We had a recent victory, which is encouraging, but it's always an ongoing fight. And that's why we're teaming up with Stuart Rhodes. And, there's too much compelling stuff right now to not make a documentary about it. So we're trying to use the current hype and not just make a narrative feature film that's just, it's playtime, it's fake. It's a film is a lie that tells the truth, basically. So we're making a feature film that's not true. I mean, it's not based on current events, but you find its roots in current events. So we're trying to make it into sort of an engine of prosperity that will generate revenue with some documentaries. It'll consistently produce documentaries. There will be a web series, an entertainment-based web series, and then multiple feature films. So getting all this stuff off the ground is what is taking us so long to do it. But we're working very hard every day to do it. I mean, it's our full-time jobs, and we're not slacking here. But we got to do things the right way. I mean. We can't just poop out a script in a weekend. It's taken me 2 years so far to write this thing. Well, over a year of writing, of solid writing, just to get the script perfect. If it's not perfect, an investor will be like, I like your style, but the script is going to fall flat. So we have to avoid those pitfalls by making sure all the gates are met along the way. So
but
that's
also most importantly, we want to keep it independent. So we have control over the creative integrity of it, and that's some Hollywood production company that tells it what they do.
Red Dawn. They can't piss off the Chinese anymore, so they got to make them North Korean. And then everyone's just rolling their eyes, but they'll still go see the movie. And hopefully we will surpass those kind of limitations and be as true to form as possible while remaining entertaining.
So tell us, may go each one by one, is what really got you involved in starting the film? How'd you guys get started? What was your turning point for making this, or start making this film to, spread the message of, to everybody out there?
Oh man, that's a long story.
How did you wake up?
Yeah. I mean, pretty much. It's been a long time for me. I've been researching information, just dealing from a lot of conspiracy, what they call conspiracies. I call them not theories, facts, personally. Probably almost about 10 years now. I met with David probably about 4 years.
2010.
Yeah, 2010. So about 3 years ago. We were very much on the similar page, coming from different backgrounds. Him being military, me just being book nerd on it. Similar ideas, morals, ethics towards it. Presented some information on it. Told him not to believe me, research it himself. He came back, not just coming back with incredible ideas for this idea that kind of merged into Gray State, how it is now. So
it's been a perpetual waking up. I mean, everyone's got that moment where they get dizzy and it's like, oh shit, my world's coming to an end tomorrow. But then you overcome that, and everyone has to act within their own capacity to kind of spread the message, to be the Sermon on the Mount or whatever, be a disciple for what you now know, because you're now in a sea of zombies. You start to see it, and we're filmmakers, so we're going to make a film about it. We're going to tell a story, because that's where my brain goes. I see this stuff going down. I'm like, this place will become a third world country, a battleground, and I want to do what I can to avoid that. So maybe I can show what that might look like through a film to kind of wake people up. Like, this is something worth protecting. So
and also at the same time, and we were just in Boston just for a day, and just seeing how that was going down within literally a military state, which is very inspiring because of what we do and inside our head. Actually seeing progress in real life, not only is it scary, but also at the same time, also in a weird, more of a way, inspirational for us, because we know what we're doing is going to be shaking, but also entertaining to the fact that we can also reach millions of people, not just a limited amount of people at the same time.
If we play our cards just right, it'll pass as science fiction, just enough I mean, you see like Mad Max, okay, or something like that. That's off in the future. That's some desert, weird, strange world that I can disassociate from my current reality enough to be comfortable with the film. Hopefully, it'll be just enough over that border so people can comfortably watch it and absorb its message without being turned off by it trying to tout itself as truth. So we're going to play it a little bit safe. But although the film is fake, nothing in it is fake. Nothing in it is not real. So I mean, that's where it's pretty unique as a film.
So going to different events and talking to people about it, what's the response been so far from many people you've talked to, different locations? Anything stand out to you guys?
It's striation.
I mean, it totally is.
It's the divide that we expected. It's, either they love it or they hate it. But it's about a 90-10 split where people are like, you're onto something there. And that's pretty important. And then other people are just violently opposed.
And just from an entertainment standpoint, people are on that page. We're like, yeah, we could see it's from what you guys are trying to do. For the time when we actually shot the trailer, our tools were limited to what we're able to actually envision it. But other people were just completely disgusted and call us just basically psychos about it. Like, we're crazy. But they cannot deny the fact that there is beginning a movement behind the gray state, because this is what people want to see on the same time. And they can't deny that because of the truth.
So most importantly, to wrap it up here quick, tell us, anybody, viewers out there, where they could find the work, to keep updated on it, what's going on now, any updates where people could find that, to donate, anything else like that.
You can find us on YouTube at the Gray State channel, graystatemovie.com. You're going to find us on Facebook, which is Facebook.
Google Gray State Movie. You're going to get 60 pages of hits. It's awesome, like seeing how many people find the trailer and push it. So Google it, you'll find it. But something that we just started is the documentary we're calling Gray State: The Rise. So if you're interested in finding out like real world updates, sharing news, the current stuff that the film can't touch, but it's still real world, that's where the documentary is going to come through and actually post current events. So Gray State: The Rise will be our documentary, but Gray State Movie will cover everything else.
I've just been interested in liberty and economics for a long, long time. And, and basically when the 2008 crash happened, we said, let's make this into a real interesting story and, turn this into something that nobody's ever seen before. And, very quickly, the roots of all this goes down to the Federal Reserve, goes down to the nature of money itself.
Yeah, I just came out to support the movie. I really appreciate what the producers are trying to do, the message that they're sending. They're trying to entertain as well as educate. And so I think it's an important film in that respect. I wish we'd get more films like this, maybe even, some major Hollywood studios doing some bigger films.
Here with David Crowley of the Gray State, great movie coming out. And why don't you tell us a little bit about that, what you're doing, what Gray State is, and why people should look out for it.
All right. Well, when you look outside your window and it's suddenly not the same world you remember, it's called waking up, and everyone in their own capacity has to act. So just like everyone here is protesting, trying to get the word out to raise awareness for things. I'm a filmmaker. I have to act in my own capacity as well. So I'm exercising my creative liberties while I still have them to create a film that is essentially based in this reality. So Gray State, while it is a narrative fake feature film, it's based in reality, just like a monster movie might be about a shark. Our shark is what the Bilderbergs want to accomplish with our world. So Gray State is martial law, civil war, economic collapse, calamity in the streets, death by starvation. I mean, who knows what the options are? I mean, we know what the possibilities could be. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's our best interpretation. So the Gray State is a film about what we can expect. It's a consequence of what could happen if we collectively fail to embrace liberty.
Nice. And when can people expect to see this released?
No one knows. This is comprehensive, but no one knows exactly what to expect from the reality these guys in the Bilderberg meeting are trying to accomplish for the world they want. No one can really expect what's going to happen. Is it going to be a false flag attack? Is it going to be a mega virus or an EMP from Russian? No one really knows what's going to happen. It's our best interpretation. So in absorbing all this information, we have to craft our own story. And that has been a process. So it's been about 2 years that we've been developing the concept and creating a marketing package. Basically, we shot a concept trailer last year, and we've been working on it this entire time. So it's been ongoing, and we're trying to do it right. Because if we're going to do it right, we're going to do it the way we want to do it, and not sell it to a corporate studio who's going to mess it up and try to put in their own messages. So in doing it right, yes, we are taking a while, and it's just me and my partners doing all the work. But hopefully that will explode, and it will be taken out of our hands more professionals who can, we can then just direct creatively accomplish the task for us in accordance with the project, the entire project's directive. But the trailer should be done in August, and so we'll be making our public debut at that time, and really going public with our concept videos we've been creating by people like gathering material at events like this, talking to the real guys, because this film is about real issues. So we've got concept material, we've got behind the scenes material, graphic arts, and of course the trailer. There might be 2 trailers, there might be 3 trailers, but it's going to be an ongoing effort while we acquire the funding that we need.
Nice, and it looks really great. I saw the trailer, and so
You did?
yeah, there's a video on Sean Wright's video. There's a trailer.
Oh, clip.
I saw something.
What did you post?
I didn't post nothing.
Well, not the trailer. Okay, I saw the footage from your interview.
Everyone tells us that they've seen the trailer. The trailer is not out yet.
Okay.
It's got visual effects incorporating 3D stuff.
Oh, that's
so
the,
we're trying to
what is
achieve a
that?
Hollywood standard, so it does take a long time. So the trailer is not done yet. I do have a rough draft, but no one has seen it.
I've seen it. No, just kidding. Not me.
You're telling a combat veteran that I shared something I'm not supposed to. No.
You seriously.
Operational security, Sean. Come on.
Wait, well, we're looking forward to seeing the Gray State, and where can people find that on the internet?
GrayStateMovie.com. We're on Facebook. It's at facebook.com/GrayStateMovie. We also are on YouTube, and YouTube is the place to go if you want to see the videos that we've been releasing. We just released a Ron Paul promotional video to support our crowdfunding campaign. So we're trying to get some money to go to the RNC, because we're trying to get to these real events where the real stuff is going down, so we can continue to document reality. And then, of course, that's going to filter right back into the narrative feature film.
Nice.
So yeah, GrayStateMovie.com there. Check it out.
Cool. It's good speaking with you, brother.
Hey, thanks.
Is David Crowley. This guy is working on an amazing project. I got to spend some time with him at some of the events recently. This is a great team working on Gray State, the movie about the encroaching police state. So I want him to come up and tell you about it. David Crowley, everyone.
You know, it's always refreshing to encounter people who are alert and thinking. Most of the places you go, it seems like the people you encounter are the glassy-eyed acolytes of Facebook, TV, or pop culture. You know, the ones who, when you look at them, you're not even sure if they can see you. Or there's the ones who, when you look at them, there's light, intelligence, and an alertness behind the eyes that's almost, well, human. And more often than not, that intelligence will be linked to a person who is familiar with freedom. To me, the light of humanity is not in its technical capability to enslave each other and itself, but in the calm understanding that if I am to be truly free, then I must observe your right to be free as well. And here at Fall Fest, I see that familiar recognition of a fellow freedom lover in everyone I meet. And in the words of Dr. Paul, that idea of liberty is becoming more and more popular. So, let me introduce myself. My name is David Crowley. I'm a husband and a father. I'm a combat infantry veteran with over 5 years of service and 2 deployments. But I'm here speaking today as a filmmaker. I'm the writer and director of the film Gray State. Now, has anyone heard of Gray State? You know, that doesn't surprise me, because the trailer racked up nearly 150,000 views in its first week on YouTube. The overwhelmingly positive response to the trailer tells me that for whatever reason, it's something people want to see. Since we began developing the concept 2 years ago, people have been asking me, what is the Gray State? This is a question whose answer needs no further clarification than for you to look outside your window and observe what your world has become. You may recognize it as the world financial prison that has been created by bankers. You may recognize it as a visualization of the uneasy fear you may now have as a police car pulls up behind you. You may recognize it as one quick step away from the pervasive surveillance state in which we now live. In any one of these estimations, you would be correct. In short, the Gray State is the culminating manifestation of the darkest trends our negligence and malignancy have to offer. As you watch the trailer, you see that every scene exemplifies something sick about the way our culture has evolved. Every scene is a revealing stab at the innocuous beginnings of a totalitarian police state, suggesting just how our silence and inaction might be rewarded. It is a preview of what happens should the Ron Paul revolution, that fire of free thought, roll over and die, and let them have their way with our country. Gray State may be just a movie, but if that's all it really is, then Ron Paul is just another congressman. If you've already seen the Gray State trailer, you'll recognize this tagline. The Second American Revolution may not be remembered. It surprised me how little people question that statement, and not in the way that they usually don't question what they see and hear. It seems like they really get it. They understand that if the frontal attacks on liberty we endure on a day-by-day basis ever culminate into a shooting war, then it will result in either a total teardown of our current system of government or a complete eradication of the fundamental idea of freedom. And looking around, you know that such a possibility is not far off. The film explores trends like RFID, bio, and nanotechnology. These represent the fusion of authoritarian control and human flesh, and these trends are no longer science fiction. Trends like the slow, systematic takeover of the free exchange of information as foretold by Orwell, also, unfortunately, no longer science fiction. Trends like the slow yielding of our quiet American towns and streets to a choking array of federal surveillance grids, illegal police checkpoints, and literal foreign occupation. Trends like the acceptance of torture as a sanctioned practice, the acceptance that a portion of our children will be siphoned off to be sacrificed in foreign wars, and that the acceptance that this is simply the way things are. The acceptance that some people may be arrested, black-bagged, and imprisoned without charges or trial, and that as long as we submit to state authority, continue to yield our liberties, and modify our behavior to fit the mold of federal approval, this unlucky person being dragged away will not be us. And as long as at least we believe our freedoms are not at stake, we will be allowed to return to the comfortable complacency of our padded, regimented lives. We live in strange times. We share this nation with people who think drinking raw milk is radical behavior. People who think organizing a military stand down is radical behavior. People who think committing our troops and our resources to more and more undeclared foreign wars with increasingly thin veneers of moral justification is actually patriotism. People who are unfamiliar with interpersonal communication, completely without trust, sense of community, or allegiances beyond corporate brand loyalty. We live in a society that is fractured, marginalized, and distracted. The film will explore the consequences of this complacency, but also the film will explore the rise of those who did not live their lives asleep. The rise of patriots, those who know that liberty is not given but purchased, and at some point collectively decide that enough is enough. Patriots loyal to the founding principles of this country by which the most successful experiment of liberty in human history has drawn its voice, backed by the awesome heritage of armed resistance to tyranny each American can proudly claim, throw off their shackles, and retake their birthright. We are not a nation of sheep who should look at our history with shame and submit to authoritarian rule. The Gray State will tell this story as well. There are many people in this country, and in this room perhaps, who anxiously await an armed revolution. They imagine that if only we could return to constitutional republic and embrace free markets and individual liberties again, that the American dream will return to us. But will the Second American Revolution be remembered? Because now we begin to appreciate the magnitude of our opposition. This is not an obsolete single tyrant thousands of miles away who threatens everyone's freedom publicly, but a convoluted mess of legislation and social evolution that slowly and gradually usurps our liberties one at a time, whose enforcers believe that they are working in the best interest of all, and whose ranks are filled by our own friends and neighbors. They say revolutions are won by the 3%, and that may be true. Many potential 3%ers are here today. But the Gray State, the real Gray State, is the 97% who will not have their entitlements threatened by a minority. And it's the first sign that these government subsidies will end, will finally act to betray us. And with the array of technological and logistical weapons arrayed against us, should that armed revolution begin, should that shot heard around the world be fired in our time, we are locked into a conflict that will end with either our total, complete throwdown of the system, after perhaps 50 years of guerrilla warfare and uncounted casualties, or our utter annihilation.
The October Surprise, the Gray Stage Podcast, episode number 40. Justice for David Crowley and family. This episode features Dan Hennon, Greg Fernandez Jr., Catherine Michelle, Stephen Sanziri, Crip Rick, and a retired U.S. soldier who served with David Crowley, Mr. Matthew A. Nicolai. The question: were David and Kamel expecting Sidra to arrive at their home on October 18, 2014, or was it an October surprise? There are 3 cars involved in this case. The gray Toyota Corolla LE. Here's an image of the gray Toyota in the Crowley driveway taken before the deaths. This is from David Crowley's Day One journal. And here's a license plate of the same car found in the garage. This photo was taken on January 17, 2015, when the bodies were found. This is one of 2 cars found in David Crowley's garage. Here is an image from September 29, 2014 at 8:15 a.m. This shows the interior of the same car. Then there is an Acura. I wasn't able to find any exterior photos of the Acura or the color. But there were 2 photos of the interior from the Day One journal. One is dated June 27, 2014, and the other is dated July 24, 2014. Both show Kamel driving the Acura. Then there is a black Toyota Corolla SE. Here's an image of that black Toyota that was found in the garage next to the other Toyota. Here's an image of that black Toyota Corolla from October 19, 2014 at 11:51 a.m. You can see the black Toyota is on the street outside of the Crowley home. This is one day after Kamel's sister swaps the cars out. Now there is an unrelated Audi from an image from Google Maps that is dated 2012 that is not related to this case at all. But I did want to put this in here just in case anybody else was confused about this car, just like I was. This image was taken in 2012, long before the Crowleys moved into 1051 Ramsdale Drive in 2013. In 2009, Kamel's dad gave David Crowley the gray 2004 Toyota Corolla LE as a graduation gift. Kamel's sister gave Kamel her black Toyota Corolla, but the date is unknown. Sometime between May 16th and May 18th, David, Kamel, and Rania traveled to Hewitt, Texas in the black Corolla to spend time with the Alam family before heading off to Los Angeles. The Crowley family arrives in Hewitt, Texas on May 19th, sometime around 12 a.m. On the evening of May 20th, Rania remains in Texas while David and Kamel fly from Texas to Hollywood to meet with several people about the future of the Gray State Project. David secures an option deal with Michael Entertainment Group sometime between May 21st and May 24th of 2014. David and Kamel then return to Texas on May 25th. David and Kamel leave the black Corolla in Texas and drive Kamel's dad's Acura back to Minnesota. By May 27th, the Crowley family is back in their Apple Valley home with the Acura. 6 months pass, with David and Kamel in possession of the Acura and the gray Toyota. On October 18, 2014, Kamel's sister, along with her fiancé, drive her black Toyota Corolla 15 hours from Texas to Minnesota to pick up the Acura and return it to Kamel's dad. In exchange, they will leave the black Toyota Corolla with Kamel. Kamel's sister then drove the Acura back to Texas, presumably the next day on October 19th. The encounter between Sidra, her fiancé, and David Crowley is one of the stranger aspects of this case, in my opinion. Sidra ends up leaving the Apple Valley with the Acura. Though David told her she needed to take the black Toyota too, Sidra ignored that request, according to reports, and left her black Toyota in Minnesota. The October surprise. Let's look at the post from Friday, October 17th at 2014, 6:11 a.m. This is from David Crowley's Day One journal. Things with Kamel's family are too fucked up to enumerate here. That's what's going on now. It's a sick situation. Beyond that, I got a text from Joe. We made beautiful music together. Goodbye, Dave. This pigeonhead is butthurt I haven't responded to his text. He's a single asshole living alone with no job, family, or possessions. What does he imagine we have in common? Things with Ronnie are going so well, it's like an imaginary world. The house is closing up for the winter, and no one is bothering us. On Saturday, October 18th, 2014 at 4:04 p.m., David Crowley writes in the Day One Journal, "If one of us can make it, we take our entire history." But there is no mention of the car exchange with Kamel's sister. This is more evidence of an October surprise. After the incident on October 18th, Mr. Alam stops paying for David's phone. Though he still pays for Kamel's phone, David and Kamel both get new phones in late October. David's new phone record begins on October 22nd, 2014, and Kamel's new phone record begins a day earlier on October 21st. And this is just a preview of what we will be talking about this Saturday, April 29th at 12 p.m. Pacific Time for the Gray Stage Podcast, episode number 40, October Surprise. Thank you all and God bless you. Hope to see you then.
Are you interested in the paranormal, murder mysteries, cryptocurrency, and thought-provoking interviews? Then check out Cryptrex I've Been Thinking on YouTube, or every Monday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Studio A at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. Welcome to the Crypt.
Hello, my name is Dan Hennon. Today is October 10th, 2018, and I'm going to be providing an update for the Crowley case updates. Tonight's episode, the case of the missing will. Catherine Kate Crowley, born 1964, died in 2015. Kate Crowley was David Crowley's mother, was Kamel Crowley's mother-in-law, and Rani Crowley's grandmother. So David and his sister Allison and his brother Dan Jr. Grew up with their mom Kate and their dad Dan Sr. They got divorced in the year 2000 and I believe it was 2005. Here's the Kate's obituary that was posted after she died. She was healthy, had 2 jobs, and was in good condition. They say that she simply died. There was no real explanation to it. And to the left here is a family photo taken in August 2014 at Rani's birthday party there at the Crowley residence. And so that's 1 year. 1 year later is when she was found dead in her home, unresponsive in her backyard. For those who don't recall, we have a lot of new members in the group. For those who don't recall, Kate Crowley lived in Owatonna, Minnesota. Her ex-husband Dan Sr. also lived in that same city, and that is about, I think, about a 35 to 40 minute drive away from Apple Valley, where the Crowley residence was, where the 3 bodies were found dead. And so that was January of 2015. Now, this is only less than 7 months later. The police report here in the local paper for Owatonna stated on August 9th, a death investigation for police. At midnight, officers responded to a death investigation report on Lancer Lane Northeast. So this is right at midnight, officers responded. On the 9th, she was found unresponsive and already dead, slumped over a chair, sitting in a chair next to a table on this back patio. And so she died on August 8th that evening. A welfare check was done, I believe, by her boyfriend, who hadn't received any phone calls earlier that night, hadn't heard from her. He did a welfare check, showed up, and then saw the body, called police. So this was after the midnight hour of August 9th and the early morning hours of August 9th, 2015. So we've got David Comel Raniel dead, bodies found January of 2015. The police reports come out, and the significance of this case is that the police reports came out and everyone bought into and went along with the official story that David killed his wife, his 6-year-old or 5-year-old daughter, and then himself after being despondent and in a case of depression and whatnot, and then he did all this. Now, the police reports, the only mention of the 94-page police reports of anyone doubting the story was David's mother, Kate. She's the only one who said, I didn't believe this could happen this way unless they were either both in on it or they had some kind of an agreement or something, but this is not something David would do. That's why there's been so much scrutiny on the strange, suspicious death of Kate Crowley. And so we'll be getting into that more here. So there's the back patio of her home where the body was found in Owatonna, Minnesota. In looking into the estate and what would happen to the estate, there was questions and concerns as far as the benefit, the motive. If this was not just an accidental death, who would have been behind it? And so in looking for this, we see the court documents for the estate of Catherine Crowley, deceased. We see the petitioner as Daniel J. Crowley. That is the David's brother, DJ. This is Daniel J. And so he was the one who filed the paperwork to get the ball rolling on the estate. He used an attorney named Gregory C. Olson that he retained for this. And what we see on August 19th of 2015, the highlighted in the yellow, is a statement of content, either lost, destroyed, or unavailable will, document ID number 4. And that kind of perked up our interest there as far as the will. Being only 51 years old, folks were wondering if she had a will. If she did, if she didn't, did she have money? Was there any sort of reason to have her, anyone to have her dead? And so when we saw this was fairly interesting as far as the will destroyed or unavailable or lost. And what we get here now, just this week, an individual, a citizen investigator, found this information and provided it to me here, the following. The first thing is here, these document to the above named court, the undersigned Allison Crowley respectfully states she's the daughter, a surviving daughter. So Kate has died, and she was divorced, not remarried. And so the only remaining members left of the family is her son, DJ, and her daughter, Allison. Allison here in this paperwork, she's living in Chicago at the time. She's basically, if you look at number 4 there, she renounces any right to the appointment as to the personal representative and hereby nominates her brother, Daniel J., as the personal representative of the above named estate. So really, she's signing away her rights here on August 14th. To say that, you know what, I want my brother to be in charge. I want my brother to take over this. And that was on the 14th. So this explains, if we go back here a page, why Daniel Crowley is the one doing the petitioning. That question was raised. Why was he first to inquire about her estate? But it really wasn't. It was Allison did the paperwork, signing it over to Daniel J. So Dan Jr. now on the 19th goes and begins his course of business prepping the estate here for his late mother. So she signed it away. We've got this. The next form here is paperwork also filed on August 19th in the 3rd District Court. So if you look at the top right and middle right, all uppercase, it says Statement of Contents of Lost or Otherwise Unavailable Will for a deceased person. And so it says here, the undersigned states to the above named court that the original last will and testament of the above named decedent is unavailable because it is lost, and that the will contained the following. The residue of the estate as follows: to my spouse, number 1, if my spouse survives me. Now, Kate's not married. She's divorced in 2005. Number 2 is, if my spouse does not survive me, then I devise and said residue to be divided into equal shares and distributed to my children. And so they couldn't find the will. They looked for it and couldn't find the will, but whoever it was that went basically says, we don't have it, but here's what it stated. And so take that how you wish, but whatever she had the final funds going into, it says now it's going to be divided to the equal shares. So really, Allison and Dan Jr. will get all the remaining assets. She did not have lots of money. She was not wealthy by any stretch of the imagination. She did have debts and bills to pay, but there still was excess carryover that was left, and that was then divvied up between Allison and Dan Jr. And if you read here on this next page, it's very interesting. There's 4 things. I want to cover the first 3 items. Number 1, Daniel T. Crowley. This is the former spouse of the decedent. It says here on number 1 that he went through the decedent's legal documents and records after her death and was unable to locate the original of the will after conducting a thorough and exhaustive search. So it looks like he was able to go into her records and her personal belongings to look for it, and says that he was unable to locate it, a hard copy of the will. Number 2, they contacted the attorney's office responsible for the drafting of the will. The will was prepared at the office of Gregory C. Olson of Patton, Hoverston, and Berg, PA, who verified that the original will was not contained in the client's file, which was on record there. So let's reiterate here, item number 2, they couldn't find the original will, which means that at one point, Kate Crowley had a will. She went so far as to have an attorney, Gregory Olson here, who was also representing Dan Jr. in the estate. She at one point must have gone to him to have a will prepared. And so now the ex-husband couldn't find it. The lawyer couldn't find it. And then number 3, inquiries were made within the family as to whether or not anyone had knowledge of a new will being executed, since the old will dated March 13th, 2006. And it says here, a thorough and exhaustive search was made for the will shortly after the death, and there was no information as to any such will being found. So let's go back. They were divorced in 2005. Kate Crowley had a will done with the help of Gregory C. Olson on March 13th of 2006. So right away, a young divorced mother of 3 goes and gets a will done at an attorney's office at Patton, Hoverston, and Berg. Now the will goes missing in between time, so they don't know if there was an updated will, a new version, anything of the sort, but a thorough and exhaustive search of the home, item number 1, couldn't be found. Item number 2, at the law office, they couldn't be found. And number 3, the remaining people of the family, the remaining family members, could not or did not know or was even aware of a will. So this gets to the title of the broadcast, the mystery, the case of the missing will. We had been under the assumption here, looking into the investigation the Crowley case and subsequently the Kate Crowley case, that we didn't think there was a will. We just thought that she died. She was young, and nothing came of it. It did perk up our ears as there was a strange the secretness of the death, as far as family members even found out of Kate's passing on our Facebook page for the Crowley case, because it was very secretive the way that was handled and that information was disseminated. And so now we find out that there was indeed a will, in fact, way back in 2006. Now, the strange thing for me here is that not only could they find the will, the hard copy will, but they went to the attorney's office and could not find the will. So hopefully on this video here in the comments section below, those of you who are attorneys and whatnot, feel free to make a comment. Is that common? Or aren't they required to keep the copy of the will of their clients on site? So let's try to clarify that. So anyway, Gregory Olson could not find it. The last page of this information here that was forwarded to me by a citizen investigator was this state of Minnesota, Steele County, which is Owatonna, is Daniel J. Crowley declaring, states under oath that the representation in the foregoing statement is true as far as he knows, and that such a statement is true and complete to the best of his knowledge. He's signed off. In fact, it's notary, a notary signature, then a stamp besides, and at the very bottom you see it's Gregory Olson, Patton, Hopperston, and Berg. So he signs off. It's good to go. This is August 19th of 2015. She dies the 8th. They find the body on the 9th. And here we go, 19 days later. Everything's kind of gone through, and in 10 days they can't come up with anything. And so they give the remaining assets to equally between Allison and Dan Jr. So I began to look into the background of this Gregory Olson. His name has come up a couple of times here. He does work here, it looks like, for Patton, Hopperston, and Berg, PA. This is the website. It does show the profiles of their lawyers and their attorneys on staff. And they've got several locations. And here is Mr. Gregory Olson. So he's handling, he was, I guess, a family lawyer on the Kate Crowley side, and then did the will. And then when Dan Jr. went to go get the claim with Allison as well, they also worked with Gregory Olson. So they went to the offices of Patton, Hopperston, and Berg. Now, if I go to LinkedIn and pull up Patterson, Hopperston, and Berg, I see that there's 17 employees on LinkedIn. So small, rather small office, some paralegals, some attorneys, and I don't see Mr. Greg Olson's name there mentioned. And so there is a page 2. Here's the second list of employees there at the firm on LinkedIn. I don't see a Gregory Olson there at all. Now, if I go and do an actual search on LinkedIn for Gregory Olson, his name does come up as just Greg Olson. It looks like he's not linked to his actual employer for Patton and for the full name, but he's got listed here just PH&B Law Offices. I find it strange he only has 3 connections. Not connected to the firm, only 3 connections. Usually attorneys have very well connected with what it is they're doing. So go back to the page, and certainly enough, even though he's not listed there on LinkedIn, he certainly is a member. There's his picture again with the rest of the team. So Gregory C. Olson does in fact work there. Just may not be too involved in LinkedIn to keep his information up to speed, but that is something different. All right, his background and his profile shows his various bar admissions and his certifications. He's been around for a while here, first getting admitted to the bar in 1978. So he's been around for a while and has been an attorney lawyer for many years. That also could explain the lack of information on the LinkedIn site, as many younger folks keep that page up to date. Older folks do not have that much interest in that, so that could explain that. His education was University of Minnesota, Bachelor of Arts in 73, then got a master's degree in 81, and then got his law degree from Hamlin in 1977. So he's been around for a while. Now, what I was interested in here for, thinking of how someone could lose the will here, I wanted to see what his background was. Where did Mr. Greg Olson work in the past? It shows currently that he's an attorney at Patton, and we see that. That is correct. That makes sense. He's been there since 2007. And then attorney, law offices of Gregory C. Olson from 78 to 2007. So for many years, looks like he ran his own law firm, single practice there by himself, right after getting his degree. So it doesn't appear that he worked anywhere. Got his degree and started his own law practice, and then listed as an adjunct professor at the University of St. Thomas since 1984 to present. That's pretty good university here in the Twin Cities area. So I began to do some research, looking up here with the Secretary of State, Office of Minnesota Secretary of State. I couldn't find any business record searches for law offices of Gregory Olson. I did a search for active statuses, inactive statuses, and it contains the name Gregory C. Olson or the phrase law offices of Gregory C. Olson. And as you see there at the bottom, no results match. So he may have just been running his own business and never filed or never set it up or never registered his business. So I thought, well, let's go to the St. Thomas website. And St. Thomas here, University of St. Thomas, here's the actual website of their adjunct faculty. So you can go right there to the website, and anyone can scroll down the list of adjunct professors that they've got and can see how many people are currently on staff. It's listed in alphabetical order. Let me click this here, try to scroll down. There we go. A lot of adjunct professors listed alphabetical at the University of St. Thomas. Many. Listed from A all the way through last name Will. I don't see a Gregory Olson listed at all. He's been there since 1984, adjunct professor, so that's about 34 years at the university. And so here it is, alphabetical. Let's go to the letter O. I see a Brett Olander. I don't see a Greg Olson at all. Gregory Olson. So maybe they just forgot to list his name on their website. Pretty prestigious school there. Looks like they've got all these up to date. Can't imagine they would have forgot about Mr. Greg Olson, but perhaps they did. But he's been there for 34 years. Now the other thing is that profile may not be updated with his current employer, so maybe he no longer is an adjunct professor. And I had thought about that as well. I did a Google search relating to St. Thomas University, the phrase adjunct professor and the name Gregory C. Olson on Google, and in fact, nothing came up. Nothing came up at all, as if he ever worked there or was ever an adjunct professor at all. So I'm beginning to question Mr. Olson's background. And so I've got a premium account here at the White Pages. Looked him up, looked up his background. A couple things came up that were strange, not out of the ordinary, but I just consider them strange. I've got a speeding ticket here, 65 and a 55 by Mr. Gregory Olson. That was just this January, it looks like. And then we go to the next page. We've got a charge 1 of a DWI back in 97. Charge 2 of a second DWI. This was less than a year later, his second one. And if you look at the highlighted mention there, September 1st of 98, pulled over by the Minnesota State Patrol in Rochester with a .20 gross misdemeanor. And I'm assuming on that first case, he would have been under a 1 or 2 year probation after the first DWI. So this would have been a violation of his with the second DWI, and that's why they listed it up here as a gross misdemeanor. The first one looks like, if you look under the disposition, it says dismissed. DWI dismissed back in 97, then one within the year that's convicted, they jack it up to a gross misdemeanor. And that 2 that's 2 within a 5-year period. And then charge number 3 is a failure to display ATV registration tags. That looks to be probably a 4-wheeler or some kind of all-terrain vehicle. So some trouble with the law, not big, and that took place in the year 2000. And last of all, we see here on that same background report a bankruptcy charge for Mr. Gregory Olson. So it looks like in 2012, Greg Olson filed Chapter 7 bankruptcy charges. And so strange goings-ons here with this case, and once again, whether it's the Crowley case from Apple Valley, the triple murder case that we've been looking into, or the Kate Crowley strange, suspicious, mysterious death. Now we find out that she did in fact have a will, and that will was done at an attorney's office, saved and signed, and now it's surprisingly went missing. And so it's just one more strange, odd, coincidental thing relating to this case. Once again, please leave your comments below here with any suggestions you have, or if you were an attorney or with an attorney background, clarify some of this stuff for the rest of us here. Thanks for listening.
Are you interested in the paranormal, murder mysteries, cryptocurrency, and thought-provoking interviews? Then check out Crypt Rick's I've Been Thinking on YouTube, or every Monday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Studio A at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. Welcome to the Crypt.
Hello, everyone. Catherine Michelle here, and today I'm joined with Sophia.
Hello, everybody.
And today we're going to talk about the bodies in the living room and the deaths that supposedly occurred in the living room. Sophia has been working on a presentation, and I think you guys will find it not only enlightening, but it's going to open your eyes to the real facts and not the narrative. We know the narrative says that they were killed in the living room. All 3 of them died within the living room. But Sophia is going to show us, she's done a lot of work here with not only photos, but a lot of research, and then going out to furniture stores and doing comparison. And I think you will find it sufficient proof that by the time she's done with this presentation, that you will see it wasn't possible that they were all 3 killed within the living room. Sophia, do you have anything you want to add before we start?
I just would like everybody to please
follow along until the end because we really tie this all together. And if you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to ask. Either Catherine and I will be able to, or hopefully be able to help you out by answering them and helping you through this. This is going to show the living room photos. It's going to outline where the bodies had been laying. You're going to see decomp fluid that is there, the hair, things like that. So if you have children, this is probably not the video for them to be watching with you at this time. I just want to put that disclaimer out there for everybody because we are talking about blood and we are talking about the murders that supposedly happened in the living room. And so if you want to go ahead and pause and take your children out of the room, that would be perfectly fine with me. The bodies of David, Kamel, and Rania were located on the living room carpet. But is this where they died? Today, Catherine and I are going to discuss the official narrative, which stated David supposedly had snuck up on Kamel and Rania while they were presumed to be watching the pink iPad. He proceeded to shoot Kamel twice in the head and Rania once in the head. It is also stated that David staged the crime scene and wrote on the wall. The commentary carried on that David had laid down on the carpet near the girls and then shot himself once in the head. This is all false. Please continue to watch because by the time we finish this presentation, we will prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that the official narrative is a flat-out lie. How can we prove this? We have the crime scene photos, screenshots of the reports from the case, comments made by family, friends, and investigators, and lastly, we have used a negative filter, which helps to highlight the blood, body fluid, and hair. You, as a viewer, will be able to easily see for yourselves the highlighted items. At the end of this video, you too will be asking not only yourself, but others, where did the Crowleys die? Who moved their bodies? Who did this horrible crime? And lastly, why were their murders swept under the rug? Unfortunately, we don't have all of those answers, but with your help, we can work together to find justice for David Crowley and his family. Okay, this next slide, we'll be looking at a conversation between Dan Hinnon and Sidra Alam. This happened several months after David and Kamel were discovered. David, Kamel, and Rania were discovered deceased in their living room. Within this conversation, Sidra recalls what the detectives told her when she was in Minnesota. The detective stated that David shot both Kamel and Rania in the back of the head while they were in the living room. This slide actually is pointing out, Dan asked Sidra about the death. And she says, talked to the investigators and I got some new information. My sister and Rania were shot in the back of the head. And Dan asked, in which room? The front room? So disgusting. Sidra Alam says, yes, the living room. Dan Hinnon, do you know if they were standing or sitting? Or do you know the time of the day, what everyone was wearing? And then Sidra responds, no, they don't know, and yet still waiting. They're saying it happened on Christmas, but it's a guesstimate. What we're doing is we're looking at the recliner and the blood spot that's on the recliner. This is just a partial crime scene photo. I cropped it so that we could just see this particular area. And I chose to zoom in and block the blood located on the arm part because I'd like for you to see the results once we use the negative filter. You'll see that a negative filter highlights the blood as a kind of greenish, bluish color. We ask for you to look for this particular color throughout the slideshow And it will tell you where there's blood in this living room and where there's not blood in this.
Yeah, I just want to jump in here real quick and let everybody know that on this recliner, what you're looking at right now is the bottom right-hand corner of the footrest. This is the part of the foot part that would either come up or it was in the down position. I don't know which one, but this is the part that would be closest to the floor.
Okay, and then the next slide, please. And as you'll see, it's like a bluish green color, like we stated.
Yeah, it really brings it out.
It does. And then the white color is just shadowing from the furniture. So just so you can see the difference as we go throughout the photos of the living room. Okay. And then, of course, this is the living room. And you can see the staining where the bodies were found. Now this, what you're seeing is decomp. You're also seeing dog feces and lots of hair. And a lot of chaos,
yeah.
Unfortunately. Would you like, okay, there we go. Now, we're not seeing that blue-green color once you put this filter on. And this is the same exact filter that I had on the recliner. So it highlights the decomp, which is more of a, Catherine, what color would you say that is?
It looks like a shade of white. Yeah, it's bright. It's brighter because it's the negative. You know, it's darker in the other one, and so it'll be brighter in this one. But yeah.
And so it definitely highlights the decomp. It highlights the hair, which you'll see throughout the photo, which is all white. And then, of course, the stuffing.
Yeah.
But take a look at the couch, too. The couch doesn't have that blue-green color.
No, it doesn't.
Except for the pillow, but anyway, this is what gunshot spatter looks like. We should be seeing this on the couch. And so as we're looking through the photos from now on, we're going to be focusing on the couch and that area. And I just wanted to provide a visual of what we need to be looking for. And then I put a filter on this photo so that you could see the color again to help you guys kind of see what you're supposed to be looking for throughout the photos.
Yeah, and this, everyone, is what is considered high velocity blood spatter. And you see how fine of a mist this is. It spreads out and it's a very fine mist. In fact, you know, it looks so different. Compare this with the blood you see in the other photos. And then this is why we're telling you, you have to imagine there are 4 gunshot wounds to 3 heads. And do you see any of this pattern anywhere? And especially in the living room where this supposedly happened according to the narrative.
And there's that blue-green color again, or aqua color.
It's unmistakable. It just really jumps out.
Yeah, it does. Okay. Now this is just a closer photo of the area where Kamel was found, and then Rania was between her legs a little bit further to the end of the photo.
Yeah, and I wish the pointer on my mouse pointer, I don't know if it can show up or not. I really wish that it would. If it does, that would be great. If not, I want people to please pay close attention because Sophia's.
So this is Dan Hennon along with Greg Fernandez Jr. for another installment of the Crowley Case Updates. Today is June 4th, 2016.
We're moving along now. So now we're going to go. I want to touch.
Gray State depicts the rise and fall of a American hybrid, a visionary filmmaker, a political activist, an Iraq veteran, a family man who is slowly driven into insanity by the accumulated forces of modern American culture. I've always been fascinated with self-generated documentaries. I produced Grizzly Man in 2005, which documented a man's depiction of his spiraling into madness in the world around him. And for 10 years was looking for a project that had that same kind of power and potential impact. And when I heard about the death of Treadwell and his family, I went online and I saw the material that he had posted online, the material that he thought was ready for the world, promoting his film and his life. And I was mesmerized and bowled over because the things he was putting online made me think, my God, if this is what he wants to share with the world, what is locked up in his hard drives? The quest began. Well, a poet once said, the purest products of America go crazy. And David Crowley went crazy, and David Crowley documented his own life and did it in such a way that makes me feel he knew that there was an ultimate end use for the thing. And he composed the music. He did his selfies, and I'm going to pull up my silenced phone. He didn't do selfies like this. He did selfies like this, 16:9 ratio. And even humble family movies you can see in the film if you watch closely. He is talking to his wife, and he puts the selfie down, and you can hear him rustling papers and propping it up. So he has the perfect aspect ratio. And you're thinking, why would he do this? What was he thinking? Why is he documenting this? Like Grizzly Man, we had a team of 5 people who were looking for interesting things in the Treadwell material, which was about 90 hours. And in this project, I went through everything, and I had a small team of editors who were putting together the various sequences from Crowley's archive. So we just sort of saw what was there. And then we became familiar with this vast amount of footage. And every time we would just make these discoveries. There's this footage that he shot, we called it the basement tape, where he's in the basement of his home acting out scenes from Transformers with a beautiful, just this madness scene. And it's a Travis Bickle moment. It was just such an amazing scene, and he shot 3 of them. What Werner Herzog brought to this project for me was a constant reassurance that I wasn't completely crazy in pursuing this project. And the problem is, if you're looking to Werner Herzog for a reality check on craziness, you may be kind of in the wrong orbit. But he was tremendously supportive and really liked the film and reassured me that the tree I was barking up was the right tree. Politically, it's a core sample of American crazy. It's not just the politics, it's the selfie culture, it's the narcissistic idea that I can make a Hollywood movie in my backyard with my friends and I'm going to sell it. I can become a YouTube star. I can shift religions multiple times into spiritual awareness and believe that there are demons possessing, my wife. It's this strange epicenter of all of these different things that define America today, sadly. So it's less about the politics. If Trump is the symptom, I think this film is about the disease. I think it's in some ways a cautionary tale. I think people should think twice before putting on Facebook. I think they should think twice about how they manage their lives to the outside world. I think they should think twice about what news sites they read. I think it's a cautionary tale in some way. And the fact that there is I call this the feel bad film of 2017. There is no easy, tidy ending where everything sorts out, we all sing Kumbaya, and the Wookiee gets a medal at the end of the film. It's not that. It's meant to be chewed over. It's meant to be watched twice. It's meant to be dissected. It's meant to be analyzed. And anyone's analysis of what happened is probably as good as mine. What we've done is tried to present, in essence, the story in as true a fashion as we can, and let the audience or the viewer decide what they take away from it.
You rolling? You rolling?
Yeah, we're good.
This is John Wannick of the Resistance. I don't know how far this broadcast will reach. They've taken the city. They're trying to erase us. Now more than ever, we need you to act. And if you're receiving this message, you've been recruited. Welcome to the fight, Patriots. Yeah, fight! Our enemies are moving in, and they anticipate us not having the numbers to resist. It is up to you to prove them wrong. Get this message out and wake up the Patriots! I don't need to remind you what would happen should we fail. One of these days could be our last. By helping and taking action and contributing to the cause, you'll be remembered as taking a stand against the gray state before it completely destroys everything we know. They're inside! Most of us die pointlessly and are forgotten. Do you really want to die without making a sound? Either stand now or kneel forever! You alright? He's coming? He's dead. Keep rolling! There are only days left. The gloves are off, the safeties are off. If you're looking for a sign, this is it. Diplomacy is over. War is here. If we don't make this happen, history will not remember us!
Call. It's been a long time since we've had one. We have Sophia here, we have Catherine here, and we have a new person to join us tonight, Steven Sanziri. Hope everybody is doing good.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. So far it's just us, but if anybody else who has the call-in information wants to come on, I will make sure to pop them in as well. I'm going to give a little visual over here, maybe play something or just kind of have something going on in the background. But I believe I'm going to pull up the chat. I hope everybody in the chat is doing good. Hope you all can hear us. Thank you all for hanging in there while we're a few minutes late. Catherine, can you hear me okay on your side? Am I speaking at a normal level as a human being?
Yes, it sounds really good. I do not have my ear pressed up against my screen.
I'm glad. Well, we got about 6 or 7 people in the chat, even though I look on live chat and it says that we have 1. So I'll go with that, no problem. That's how YouTube works, so we're not going to worry about any of that. Oh, and all of a sudden it switched to 8. Excellent. So welcome everybody. I'll try to keep the chat open so I can follow along. Let us know if you hear any issues, any audio issues. We are going to start with my new friend, and I feel like talking to Steven Sanziri. It feels like when we just started chatting, it's just like we had always been friends, and that's really cool that happens. That doesn't always happen here. But what I got for you, Steven, I got a list of questions here, just some questions that I would like to cover. But I think what a lot of people would probably want to know from you is who are you? Can you kind of give us a little information about your background, what you've done in the past, and then we're going to jump into your views on this case.
Well, no, that'd be great. Thank you. Briefly, born and raised in San Francisco and down the peninsula. College San Mateo, San Jose State. I became a police officer in 1982 for Burlingame, and that's in California. And then I also opened the Gold's Gym at that time, so I kind of left police work after a few years, and I got back in as a reserve per diem, and I started working bigger cases with the police department in Foster City, and I left there and moved up to the mountains and became a bail agent and a PI and bounty hunter, and I ended up getting involved in the Yosemite Sightseer murder case, which I wrote a book about called Ultimate Prey. And so that's pretty much where I am here. And I'm 61 years old now, but still have a lot of investigation in me. And I've seen a lot of cases, from the Yosemite case, the Chandra Levy, Scott Peterson case. I had a little bit of that with some evidence that I found. So that's kind of my background, guys. So any questions regarding this case?
That's great. You have looked at some of the documents. Have you been able to go through the crime scene photos? I know there's a ton of stuff there, but how much of the stuff in the few days that I sent it over to you, how much have you been able to actually get through?
Well, the last document you sent me was basically all the forensic evidence and where it was going and how it was diagnosed, the DNA off the blood, matching up to the crime scene. So I really took a look at that with all the photographs, and there's a lot of loose ends I see, from casing counts to trajectory of a bullet in the ceiling, and 2 bullets to the head and 1 behind the daughter's ear. There was more rounds shot. The crime scene was messy. What David was doing with Gray State. I went through his Facebook earlier tonight, and I could see, this guy, there was stress in him and such, but with what he had going on, this didn't happen. And one of the biggest thing is when he was murdered, the condition of his face and skull, and his arms being stretched out like a crucifix.
And go ahead. Someone else?
Oh, I was just going to say that, that's exactly one of the first things that struck me as well. And I had shown that photo to a retired police officer that I knew here in the U.S., and then also to a police department in another country. And the very first thing all of these officers said, without exception, is this isn't right.
No, it isn't. And I looked up some very gross and sad pictures of people that have gotten shot in the head with a .40 caliber. And when I looked at these photos, the first thing I thought was this was a shotgun. There's David and Kamel, their faces were totally gone. And I see shots from these .40 caliber, online, and I don't see him being that bad. And there's some things we'll get in with the dogs, and I've researched and such, but. And that's why there's 2 shots in maybe each of them. But David would have fell forward, and the shot came from the back of his head to blow his face out. Didn't come under his chin. Didn't had to exit through his face, through the front. And if it does that, he's shot from behind the head. And usually you don't put a pistol behind your head to commit suicide. And then he would have fell forward. So there you go.
Right. And the reason why I'm not sure if that is right or not, and I don't know if you've actually read the autopsy reports, is because the autopsy, which I don't really put a lot of faith in either. So if you have a whole different view on this, I'm all ears. But the autopsy reports state that there's exterior beveling to the wound that's behind the ears on the victims. So I'm like, okay, which means that it would have had to, plus they say they don't know the entrance, they only know the exit, blah, blah, blah. But even with all of that being said, if there's a shot from the side of the head and it does not make sense to me that the amount of damage done to that face would have occurred, and I do not believe a dog would have done it.
Correct.
Okay, since we're on that, Catherine, for a second here, I researched dogs and pet owners when a pet owner dies in the house and the dog's locked up, and what kind of wounds are there post-mortem. And it was very interesting. And this is, we have David's right hand missing, the daughter's right arm, and both hands of Kamel. Okay, here's what it says. These are statistics. I pulled the statistics from 2014-15. Okay, when a dog eats an owner, a former owner, 73% of the time they will go for the face. Okay, 15% of the time they will go to the abdomen, chest for the nutrients. This is an indoor dog that's trapped. Okay, now there's a difference between indoor and outdoor. The outdoor dogs, most of the time, will go for the entrails, the inside where the nutrients are, because they're outdoor. Okay, followed by the face, and last is the limbs. Limbs are the lowest on both categories. Less than 15% are limbs. So the dog didn't chew on the limbs and take them off. Those were severed.
And you know what? And I agree, and I think I've read those statistics that you're talking about. And here's another interesting thing that I think, well, something I will think you will find interesting. When I spoke with the the medical examiner here where I live, and he was trying to convince me that this dog did all this damage to the bodies, and I'm like, no, I've seen some too. And so he brings out a photo of an older person. Now, mind you, older people have softer bones and stuff like that, but an older person who supposedly was devoured by their dog in just 16 hours. But my comment to him was, the first thing I noticed is, as I told him, I said, but her head is still intact. So you're trying to tell me that this little dog ate 2 heads and left a smaller head that's more pliable alone, but yet ate that arm. I said, what you're trying to tell me doesn't add up to what I see in the scene. And he just got really upset, because I'm like, but her head is still there. I mean, yes, the flesh was missing from the head. And I don't know if he was trying to shock me with the photo, but I've seen dead bodies and decomp and watched autopsies. So it's like, okay, sorry, dude, you can't shock me. But he never did respond to that. So have you ever seen, have you seen a dog that is actually consumed? That's one thing I have to say. Personally, I have not seen in person was scavenging by an animal. Have you seen anything like that?
No, not with a dog. I've seen it with maggots in a bathtub of a guy who just couldn't get out and was actually being eaten alive. But it was also interesting because the maggots went for the face and for the entrails. But I believe there's a good chance the dog ate the face and the parts there, and the reason is that in the statistics, it's very high on an indoor dog. Okay, 73% of indoor owners bites or postmortem cannibalism, so whatever for meals for a dog is 73% indoor will go for the face first. So if that was opened up by a bullet wound, the dog would then make it bigger, wider. You know what I'm saying? It would clean it out, and then what would happen is it goes for the entrails. With his daughter's stomach, I looked at it, and it looks like the dog might have started there, and I'm not, but there's looks like almost some like knife wounds almost there, you know. So I can't quite make that out.
Yeah, what you're seeing. I'm sorry, I don't want to presume. I'm sorry. Please feel free to put me in my place and tell me to be quiet.
Oh, no, you're fine. Oh, go ahead.
But what you see on Ranya's abdomen is the marbling and some of the skin coming away in the slippage. But you were correct. Her abdomen was fully exposed, and yet that puppy or that little dog wasn't a puppy, but the dog never touched her abdomen, and yet she was also shot in the head, but her face was not eaten. And yet somehow Kamel, who was face down on the ground, had her entire face and larynx missing. So how did that happen? And this is what I tried to put forth. I mean, where her head was positioned fairly close to the couch, well, you can't because the head doesn't move. I mean, something had to have been missing to have her place as close as she was anyway. But what do you have to say about that?
Oh, well, it's a 50-50 answer, but she was shot behind the ear, so that would take the trajectory out of the skull to the opposite side. If she was laying on that side, you wouldn't see her face blown off. You'd see her side of her face. She was shot behind the ear. Kamel and David were shot in the back of the head. Okay. And if you look at bullet 57 that went into the attic through the ceiling, if you look at that trajectory in an automatic, semi-automatic weapon where it discharges the spent cartridge to the right and how far it goes, and I'm seeing in a crime scene, and I know that's not accurate by, it's probably by feet really, but, still the trajectory is the same. Bullet 57 may have been a warning shot over his daughter, holding her hostage when maybe then David came in or something like that, and David didn't believe it, and then shot the daughter and maybe shot, you know what I'm saying? Because that trajectory is even off. But she was shot in the back, right behind the ear, sad to say. So it would be a different exit wound than the front, but
Okay, so I mean, this is good because according and I'm going to trust you seriously right now over anything I read in these reports, including the autopsy reports, because the autopsy reports are saying that the exit wounds for both David and Kamel are in the left parietal section of the head, and they call them exit wounds. And because they're saying it's external beveling, which means that the damage, the bullet or the projectile is then coming through the inside of the skull to the outside, which would cause the beveling on the exterior of the skull. But you are saying from what you are seeing and what you have read that you believe that they were shot in the back of the head. Is that what you understand, at least so far? Which could change.
Until I saw this stat with the indoor dog, 73% for the face or skull when it's opened up. I've thought, like I said, the first thing I thought was a shotgun. I couldn't believe a 40 caliber, and I pulled the pictures up, and I've seen in the old days a couple headshots. They don't blow the whole face out. They really don't. They'll deform and everything else. But I kind of question that just from what I could see, how much was opened up. I mean, all that was attached was the back of his skull to the spine. The whole head was gone, literally. So it tells me that after I was reading the stats on canines, I believe the canine 73% could have went in there and really did a number and cleaned it out. Yes. That's what I think.
I'm sorry. I have a bad habit of interrupting. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. No, you're fine.
No, because here's the narrative goes though, is that the faces were not blown out by the bullet per se. They're trying to say, of course, that they was shot with the 40 cal, but that the dog ate the faces and the skull, and that the damage seen was done by the dog and not the bullets.
Well, there's the other thing is I think Kamel had 2 bullets went through her, I think. And I count 7 casings, 7 bullets basically, because they're counting 1 casing unidentifiable, which means maybe it was another around from different manufacturer, but cops know around it. So I'm calling 7 shots. Okay, I'm calling 2 to Kamel, 2 to David, and one to the daughter. That's 5 shots. 1 went up into the ceiling up there, and the other one was lost also. There was 2 basically that were lost. So he was shot in the back. I think he was shot twice to give it that effect to the front of the face. I think that's also a good theory on this.
There was one that was shot into the living room floor that was lodged in the basement too. That was item 45. And there was no blood and no DNA found on that one.
That bullet.
Does that one show?
Oh yeah, they got. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's. I'm sorry. See, those are 2 bullets that didn't hit targets, and that adds up really to 7 bullets.
And then there's
so
one.
5 and.
Yeah, and there's one unspent round that was found in the living room floor.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that? About that one? That one wasn't tested either.
Unspent round. Like I said, I think this is. I'm not calling this necessarily a pro hit on this thing. There's more than one person involved. I think it's a very sloppy crime scene. The cover-up's poor. He didn't walk around the whole house bloody and do all this kind of stuff. They had gloves on. And they were looking for some stuff. You ask why the drapes were open, and nobody took his computer or anything like that. You know what? they were going to get to it anyway. You know, these guys were sloppy hit, and that's why you got. Why is that? What's with the miss up in the ceiling, Greg? You know.
Yeah.
If you're that close, you usually hit something, and I think it was a warning shot. I think it was going to be a hostage suffering thing, and then they mutilated him too. You know, I mean, this isn't one guy, and it's not. It was a black ops. It would be just like Phil Marshall.
Yeah, it would be clean. It'd be clean. Yeah.
Clean, really clean. So this is that's what I think.
And since you're a former officer, I would really like to get this kind of cleared up, because this item 57 has been a huge bone of contention, because especially Greg, I don't want to say me, Greg has been trying desperately to get the actual photograph of that bullet hole in the ceiling from the day of the crime, and they do not and will not give him a copy of that photograph. Yet they give us the copy, and they first noticed it, and they state in their reports that they noticed it and were informed of that bullet hole in the ceiling a month later. There's no mention in any reports prior. How often does that occur? Where a police officer would walk into a scene like that and not even bother to look up when they're even moving a Christmas tree out of the way, which is where the bullet hole would have been.
Oh, absolutely. No, absolutely. And it's not a large house. It has 8-foot ceilings. You get it's right in front of you.
So do you think that is it easy to miss, or should they have seen it?
Oh, no, they should have seen it. No, it's very easy. It's, like I said, 8-foot ceilings. It's right. You know, you wouldn't miss that.
Well, yeah, because that's kind of what I questioned one of the officers about. I sent him an email and I said, I'm reading the report, and, it states that you put on a month later an obvious defect in the ceiling. So was that missed on, or am I missing it in the report, or was it missed by you guys on the date that you guys arrived at the crime scene? And no response.
They should have caught it when they were at the crime scene, the first minute.
Yeah.
Holes in ceilings aren't normal. If you really look up, there's really not a lot of holes in anybody's ceiling. And the hole's not going to be super big or anything, but you'd notice it. My question, Catherine, is, I looked at the trajectory of 57, the bullet up into the attic through the ceiling, and I looked where it would have been shot from with a discharge with out of the breech of the .40 caliber. Where that casing go? How far? I lined it up with casing number 7. And that puts casing number 7, that puts the gun behind the daughter's head, even right then. And that's why I think, so 57, he maybe shot in the air, said, I'm serious. No, he shoots the daughter. Because that's a really makes parents will suffer forever just on that. And then takes care of Karen or Kamel. But, I still believe they were shot behind the head. So I think that, there was somebody holding a gun to the daughter's head and the other guys were behind them. The guy didn't shoot her and run over because David, something would have happened. So there was other people involved. That's how I believe it. That's because of the trajectory on number 57. You're right.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think a lot of people would agree with that. However, again, and okay, please understand, I'm not being argumentative. I'm trying to get this understanding in my head. So then in other words, that 57, that the defect in the ceiling actually was there then on that date, and yet somehow it wasn't noticed until a month later, because this is kind of where, my theory or my thought process on this is it wasn't there. 57 wasn't put into that ceiling until later on, maybe even the day that it was called in, and when the police officers showed up again a second or third time and said, oh yeah, there's an obvious defect in the ceiling. And I'm like, well, if it was there that first time, with the amount of people in and out between BCA, crime scene techs, the police officers, and even the sheriff's department, someone would have seen that defect in the ceiling, and they would have had to at that point put a little marker on it, at least tagged it and marked it, but it was not done by anybody. And I'm trying to formulate how that could have happened.
Well, here's the thing: is that there's 7 casings count on the floor. There's 7 casings. Like I said, I tied number 7 casing from the angle in where the shooter was at to the bullet number 57. Maybe they didn't want to put that down. I don't know. When you have a shot that's missed or there's something that didn't go right, and you don't want to shoot that many shots. Those houses aren't that far away. You start shooting it up in there, people are going to notice sooner or later. So that was a mistake, and that mistake may have changed the MO into something else. It makes them sloppier. If they, now they're really sloppy. They got blood everywhere and all this and that, and prints that they haven't matched up because I know they got prints.
Okay, I think it finally jived with what you just said. So some things.
That's what I think. Yeah.
Yes. So there were 7 casings on that day, but only 6 fragments that were found, and that 7th fragment was then found a month later.
Right.
Gotcha.
You got, like Greg said, you have 2 misses. You have one in the floor and one up there. I mean, you want to make the least amount. If these guys were pros, it would have been silencers for sure. Maybe they were, but still they're missing. I mean, these guys don't miss. So they could have been warning shots. Get the people frantic. If it's some people that Greg and I talked about, they know where everything's at. I don't know if what was taken as far as kind of like you call it robbery. It's not that. The blood, all of the writing, jihad writing on the wall. Greg said they misspelled that.
Yeah, they had.
Yeah, well, the one thing that I did find interesting, and it was Sophia who actually pointed it out to me. So I went back and I looked through the photos. Was that we know David was a filmmaker, and she pointed out to me, although she states that she wasn't the first person who saw it, but she was the one who showed it to me, was that there was a security camera in the garage, just one, and yet there were people for some reason looking up in the attic. Now, in your experience, how often does someone who has security cameras only have one and have it in the garage?
Well, somebody was really poor, not to be facetious, but other than that, the garage, you probably, one inside in the living room and one outside in the front yard or something. I mean, at least 3 of them or something like that, not just one. Most people don't just put one up.
Yeah, and because that's what I was kind of curious about too, because I'm like, well, again, this is theory and speculation and absolutely zero proof any of it even existed, but I'm like going, okay, if there was one, there had to have been more, and where were they and who took them?
Well, here's I'm trying to say, first it looks like, right off the face of it, it's a deep state, Illuminati, the whole thing. A Philip Marshall type hit. He had too much information, whistleblower kind of stuff. Well, if they get caught, but it has to be something that looks, it makes there's no way this man was that crazy. The PTSD, whatever, the stuff that happened, the position he was laid out in. I mean, this thing, he didn't kill his wife and murder his daughter and then shoot himself. That didn't happen. No, there's no way. Absolutely, I'm 100% sure of that.
Yeah, and I agree with that too. And from the medical background, I was an EMT for over 10 years, first responder, I should say, EMT, IV certified EMT. Plus, I used to hang with a deputy coroner, and I was able to go on ride-alongs with them. Plus, I knew sheriff's deputy. So I got to do ride-alongs with all of these people and see a lot of different stuff, plus the stuff I did. And with Ranya's 3rd rib being fractured underneath, close to where the armpit is, the lateral side on her left-hand side, I will tell you that is not something a dog could do, because it's like almost up underneath the armpit. There's no way that dog could have supposedly pulled her arm out of the socket and then fractured her rib. That was done by somebody else, by a form of blunt force trauma, some type of pressure or something like that. So that, to me, when I saw that, and when I watched videos of David with his daughter, that man loved his daughter. He loved his wife and he loved his daughter. And not to say that men who love their family don't do horrible things, but this is not something that is consistent with who David was. And when I watched an interview that Eric Sayward had done. He just happened to pop up at some park where David and Camille and Rania were. And then there was this guy behind the camera asking David, hey, where's your daughter? Can we go talk to your daughter? Well, David then positions his body between this man and his family. And he's like, you know, they don't feel comfortable right now. They're really scared. Now, that is a man who's protecting his family, not someone who would then go and rip an arm out and fracture his daughter's rib. Or am I wrong? Does that happen?
No, I don't think so. You know, I even think maybe that Camille was posed. You know, I mean, when you fall, you know, she put this the way her legs were spread, way open, way wide.
Mm-hmm.
You don't stand like that. You're gonna fall to a point with or in or out. Very, you know, not too much variables of where you were standing. You know what I'm saying? And so her legs all spread. That was done and the baby was laid there like that. There's something with that, and that's what I was first thing I thought. You know, this little girl, and that way the mother was posed. You don't your legs don't spread. If you were shot in the back of the head, it's so immediate you just drop.
Right.
Your legs don't spread. The floor wasn't that. She didn't slip out that wide. She was in good shape. You know.
Yeah, she was on a rug.
Yeah, exactly. And also with the covering of the blanket, David's partially on his foot. You know, maybe he had the blanket with him on his chest or something, and when he fell, you know, that's what happened. It would have fought anyway. But I think it's that they're maybe thinking of covering something up with, I don't know, you know, with the blanket under part of his leg. And the dog could have done that, you know.
Well, here's the thing, though, is the blanket was under Camille and over David. Her sweater was also partially covering his leg. And so it's like, okay, it is so, to me, and again, I know I could be wrong, but the way I read this scene, it's like, it's so staged. And Camille's left hand was under her body, and she's missing her left hand.
Mm-hmm.
And
both hands. Yeah, right.
Yes. Yes. Well, the right hand was exposed, so they're trying to say the dog did that, but the left hand is absolutely underneath her body. So how could the dog eat a hand that is completely under her body? It had to have been removed. Yeah.
No, absolutely. The other thing is I researched how long dogs will wait before they will, you know, eat their owner or have a meal, and depending on the dog's size, it's anywhere from 5 to 8 days. If they don't get fed, but it depends on their size, weight, shape, their age, and water. Water is a big thing. They'll finish their water up before they do that a lot of times, but it's 5 to 8 days they will do that. Start that.
That is good to know. That is good to know.
Yeah.
And here's something. Go ahead.
There was 2 points I wanted to make in regards to Camille. The 3 spent bullets that were found on the carpet that day all had her DNA.
Her blood.
3 hollow points.
So it was 3. Yeah, she got shot 3 times. Okay, there's a lot of bullets. Yeah.
And then, would a dog do that much scavenging if there is bags of food on the floor in the kitchen for him?
No, I don't think so. I've never seen a scene like that, but no. And there was plenty of dog food. You're saying?
Yes, there was one large bag and then half of a large bag, and neither of them had been scratched up, chewed up, or anything like that.
Okay, and
So
that's good. You told us about the 3 bullets, because I was guessing too that into Camille. Now, if there's 3, that'll explain why the front of the face was out, and that the dog would, if he had food, no, the dog wouldn't have then feasted on any kind of thing from the face or what have you. And then that makes sense with the 3 bullets, because it would do that kind of damage.
I just remind everybody of that, only because, well, I couldn't say it earlier. You guys are having such a great discussion, but also Derek in the chat had brought that up too. And
Sorry, can you say that again?
Derek in the chat, the live chat that's going on YouTube, had brought it up also.
Oh, okay.
About the 3 bullets.
Sure. Yeah. I just saw too much damage to the face. Like I said, the first thing I was thinking it had to be a shotgun. I've seen those. I've never seen a 40.
The skull bones scattered throughout the scene and jaw bones and stuff like that. It's just
right.
It's almost as if somebody took something to their faces.
You know what? You might be correct on that, because on both of them they said it was just the back of the skull attached to the spine. So you're looking probably 3/4 or more of the head gone. So that's why David had to have had at least 2. Because I looked at the photographs and it's pretty bad. So that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. That's why
Go ahead, finish your thought there.
Oh no, go ahead, Greg.
I was gonna say, isn't it strange then that with all of these bullets, none of David's blood is found on any of these bullets? How's that possible?
Just DNA, and that was it.
On what?
Just his DNA on item 57, the attic.
They have hair. They have hair. Yeah, they have hair and other things on those bullets.
Yeah, but there's
But none of it belonged to David. It all belonged to Kamel or Rania. Not one of those fragments had David's hair, tissue, blood, or scalp. Nothing.
That's so weird.
Then where did those bullets go that killed David?
Yeah.
We don't even know if he was killed there.
That's what we keep asking, and they won't answer us.
If let's say they lined them up and used just 3 bullets through both of them, you wouldn't see the damage on Kamel. The bullet would have to go through 2 skulls. So if you think it that way, but otherwise, where's the bullets for David? I mean, and that's why I was looking. I could see David's face, but not Kamel's. That's why I think they're not mentioning it, but there was a shotgun used. One shot, you pick up the shotgun, and it's possible. I don't know.
And you could very well be right. And the thing too is that I had my deputy coroner friend look at a piece of skull that's in one of the photos. And because I'm like, hey, look at this and tell me what I am seeing, because I had a feeling what I was seeing, but I didn't know for sure. And I said, okay, tell me what I'm seeing here. And they looked at it and they go, oh, this person, I mean, they're just looking at the skull. And the first words out of their mouth was, oh, this person was killed. This is multiple blunt force trauma. And I mean, I went cold. My blood went cold. And I said, excuse me? And they said, oh, yeah. And now this is a deputy coroner that had over 3,000 cases. So they know their stuff. They deal with this, obviously, a lot. And they said, yeah, and they started pointing things out. Then they started counting. They stopped counting at 10. And they said there are at least 10, if 10 more, or possibly more, blows to the skull in this person. And they said some of these are severe enough that one of these blows could have killed them. So they said the person, which we then, through reading the reports and putting together autopsy reports, and you look at where things were found, this piece of skull bone belonged to David. And so he was actually beat. His head, he suffered multiple blunt force trauma as well as the gunshot wounds to the head. This man was brutalized. The whole family was brutalized. But so
this wasn't. Yeah, they didn't go in there quickly. But I was going to say something about some blood around David. But go ahead.
Oh no! Please, you go ahead.
Oh, okay. So the head, like in the police academy, we were taught, if you get in a fight, try to avoid the head. Like just the littlest thing with a baton, the guy looks like he shot him. It's terrible. You bleed from your face a lot. If you look at David's left sleeve, I mean, he's very blood soaked. Okay, if it was a situation where he was shot back of the head, he wouldn't have his arm so soaked on the other side, on his left, because his hand's still in everything. Right side, yes. But his left side is very blood soaked. If they beat him before they shot him, he would have blood all over him. And I think you're making a very good point. And I would look at the blood analysis. It's not splattered or anything like that, but it's so blood soaked on his left hand that's stretched out, his left arm, and whole thing soaked with blood. And then you look at his wife from pants or whatever, and the little girl, but he's very blood soaked. And that probably came from strikes to the head or in face. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's I mean, what I'm so glad you're here because things are just coming together in my brain now. I'll probably be up for the next 2 days taking notes. But because yeah, looking at that photo, if you look at his shirt, it's almost a straight line down the center of his shirt, and it is only his left side that is soaked.
Right.
But yet where's his blood? They do not find his blood or Ranya's blood anywhere in that house, except for Ranya's blood is on a bullet fragment. That's it.
Right. What you're saying is he was just beat, not shot. That's what you're thinking.
We don't even know if he was in the house when this occurred.
Oh, I believe he
because
was
all the
both.
blood that was, well, when they tested just the 16 samples, was it 16 or 19? I think it was 19 samples. It was all Kamel's. Everything that came back, except for the blood that was on the knife and the cartridge that was, or the magazine that was in the gun. That was it.
Correct.
Everything else was Kamel's. The wall, the computer, the cell phone, the quote unquote footprints.
There's another DNA profile that's right, the second DNA profile that we still don't know who that
2 to 3 unknown DNA profiles.
Right. So Greg, what are you thinking? 3 people involved in this?
You know,
yeah.
We're answering for you now, Greg.
How dare you turn it back on me? Yeah, definitely. I think multiple shooters from multiple places. Somebody standing by the front door, somebody else by the back door, and somebody that knew this family, somebody that knew the house, and somebody that knew this dog.
Was there any kind of report on how come the neighbors didn't hear any gunshots or anything?
They did hear something. We have two neighbors. One neighbor mentions rapid fire gunshots. He was asked to kind of narrow down the time or the date, and he came up with he was able to narrow it down to December 10th. Now the problem with that is that all 3 people were still active, and even well, at least David was seen after that date. Kamel was still texting people, so they were still activity.
Right.
So I don't know about that timeline. Then there was another neighbor who said that possibly he heard something that sounded like gunshots closer to Christmas, sometime between Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. But that's it, and there's a lot of neighbors in that area, and they are close. But I have to be honest, I don't know if somebody was shot a couple doors down or even next door. I don't know if I would recognize that as a gunshot either. I think you'd have to really know, and it sounds like these neighbors definitely. That's why they weren't sure if it was a firecracker. And I know we've talked about this where, if you listen to it, especially from a distance, gunshots can sound like what we would think was a firecracker. So, but the fact that we do have 2 neighbors that did say that they heard something is good. The timing is not good because it doesn't really line up when what the police say, whereas they're pretty much saying that David committed these crimes on Christmas Eve, maybe even Christmas Day. And so there's not a whole lot to really back that up because of how many shots we're talking about. Kamel was shot twice, according to their theory. The daughter was shot once, and David was shot once. That's not 3 rapid fire shots. That would account for 3 shots for shooting Kamel twice and shooting the daughter. But again, once it sounds very plausible, but when you start digging into it and digging deeper, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up, and there's still missing shots that nobody heard. Did you see David's left hand? Have you seen that, Stephen?
Oh, his left hand. Yeah, it's just post-mortem lividity and
Doesn't it look weird to you the way that the thumb? I mean, have you ever seen anything or heard anything about that? The thumb, how it's pressed up against his other finger. To me, that was very odd. Why didn't the dog go after that? He goes after all of this other stuff. The dog eating what the dog ate to me seems very selective, and there's no real rhyme or reason that I can come up with. Well, if he's going to eat one of David's hands, why not eat both of them? If he's going to eat all of David's head, and there's a hand right there, the hand is pretty much like right there. Why not go after that? Anyways, any thoughts on
Well,
that?
like I said, I got it. It was an unusual query, but I looked up the percentages, and then 73% do the skull first. I mean, you know, it's not like there's a bunch of these kind of cases, so you know, you'll be pretty solid with those figures probably through SPCA or what have you. That this, you know, this is what's happened. You know, it's happened for years probably. So, you know, it's like I said, outside at the entrails and stomach, chest area, for an outside dog more. For some reason, I had those stats so I go back. But like I said, the lowest octane meal a dog would have would be the limbs. That's the lowest on both categories.
And, you know, I really have to say that what you're saying in the research is pretty close to what I saw that the medical examiner showed me, because what was mostly missing were of course, all of the flesh, but were like the ribs. But again, this is an older person, very old. So ribs, arms and stuff, but the skull bone, the vertebral column, all of that was still there, and even some of the ribs. But yeah, the hands were gone, and so that was it fits with what the statistics are saying.
Right. Well, did that person die of a gunshot wound to the head? Did it open that cavity up there?
No.
That's the difference too. Well, yeah, but see, the dog won't do the brains and such unless there's an open wound or something started almost up there. That's kind of how this came around with the suicides into the head. But as far as the limbs go, if they don't do that, they go to the entrails usually before the limbs. But they could do limbs, sure. And the older person, softer. You know, dogs know things like that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know, and that, but it's a lower percentage of it, but it absolutely can happen. But it didn't happen in this case.
Yeah, and there's something else, and I'm trying to find my notes, but it is in here in the report somewhere. It is mentioned once in one place out of the however many pages we have right now to go through, that, and I believe, and I could be wrong, so okay, I'm going to leave the name out, but one of the people, it was either the officer or someone from BCA, goes in and they're checking for rigor on the bodies. Now, mind you, they only checked David, and they still found some quote unquote stiffness to David's arm, but everything else had lost the rigor stage. Now, and then they stated that they write in their notes, they did not check Kamel or Rania. Now that right there, I'm like going, why would you not? If you're finding partial rigor in an arm, in an extremity, why would you not check the others for partial rigor?
Well, you can tell. You can look. I mean, for one, it looks like the time of death's about the same time, and you just check one for rigor, and there's obviously no heartbeat. You know, the other ones visually have rigor. You know, rigor goes in the first 18 to 24 hours. You know,
right.
And it just decomposition. They decompose at that time, but that's kind of how, you know, that I mean that's how that works. I'm just curious, you know, what else they covered up on it, you know.
Yeah, I agree. And the one thing, and I would like to get, you know, your input, because so far everyone I've spoken to has agreed, and they didn't know they were agreeing because I asked them independently, but agreed with what the medical examiner here stated, because I showed him the photo and I'm like, okay, how long, in your opinion, and I understand it's a photograph, just give me your best guesstimate, do you believe these bodies were laying there? And without pausing, he goes 4 to 7 days, 10 days at most. He goes, these bodies were not there that long. And I said, okay, so and what are you going on to do? I mean, I'm not questioning, he's a doctor, but I was just trying to get information. And he said, based on the marbling and the condition of the bodies, and he asked the temperature of the room and where were they located. And I told him that the house was set to, was it 68 degrees, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, set to 68 degrees. The back door was just cracked. Now, it was not open, but it was still cracked. And I asked him, I said, it's in Minnesota, it's winter time, it's cracked, but the temperature is set to 68 degrees. The heater was on when they walked in. Would that have affected, could the cold air, would it have been enough cold air to stop or slow the decrease